Reasons to get high. Now, before you call me a weed propagandist, this video isn't gonna be on some number 15. You woke up in the morning, or afternoon, or evening. Fuck it, you're awake. Time to get obliterated. Instead, we are gonna be looking at actual solid reasons and situations you'll find yourself in which getting high will allow you to get and enjoy the full relaxed and faded effect of the za. Cause believe it or not, depending on your mindset, where you are, and when you do it, it has a massive effect on if the high will have you laughing and chuckling or tweaking and suffering. Anyway, let's get it started with the most common good reason to get faded, and that is, you've had a great productive day and are ready to relax and unwind. I know this one might seem obvious to some, but believe me, it's not for a lot of people, cause as we know, the biggest debuff a lot of daily smokers experience is something called za anxiety, which is like normal anxiety, but it just finished its training arc with King Kai and went Kaioken times 10 on your ass. And if you watch some of my other videos, you know that weed is just an amplifier of your already existing thoughts and feelings. So if you smoke up at a time where you got a bunch of unfinished business, the za has a very high chance of making you anxious, kinda like when legit loses his vape.
Yo, bro, this shit's an emergency. You see my vape? I know that bitch is here somewhere.
Nah, sorry bro, I haven't seen it.
You straight. Just give me a couple hits off yours, we're good.
I would, but I don't have one anymore. I quit a couple weeks back.
My f***ing ass you did, bro. I don't care if that shit's burnt, just let me take a hit off that bitch.
Nah bro, I swear, I've been off it for a while now. It was tough, but...
Man, where's my vape at, bro?
Hey, what you doing, bro?
I know your ass has a vape. Trying to hide that from me. Empty your pockets, buddy.
Basically, all the unfinished business you have has a very high chance of turning into anxiety once you smoke that doozy. And the whole point of getting lit is to chill out and relax, not stress over your shit that you should have finished before lighting up, brah. Keep in mind though, this usually only happens to people who actually have goals in life and something to be anxious about. So if you've never got an anxiety like this and smoke regularly, then either you only ever blaze up at the perfect time, or might wanna, you know, maybe sell the PS5 and put down the Doritos for a while. Anyway, next reason is you're MIA, aka sick or injured for a while. Man, do I hate being hobbled to the point I turn into a couch potato and have to endure the torture watching my friends go on adventures from afar like I was Professor X watching my X-Men have all the fun. But there is a secret upside to this as well, cause you see, usually you can't smoke up all day while doing the bare minimum and expect to actually enjoy your high because of the aforementioned za anxiety that accompanies it. But when you've been forcefully demoted to local crippled man and the world along with your doctor is telling you to take a chill for a while, an opportunity comparable only to a childhood sick day emerges. Watch YouTube, play video games, and overall be a useless sack of potatoes, all while not feeling bad about it and staying heavily medicated. Cause I don't know about you, but in a situation where there is nothing to keep me sane except video games, movies, and my phone, why would I not be blasted 24/7? And the best part about it is, if you're dealing with a nasty injury like I have for the past 2 weeks, the Zaza can be used as a substitute for the damn opioid drugs these motherfucking doctors be prescribing you for the pain. I broke my pelvis and one of my vertebrae, and I was prescribed codeine. Yeah, the thing SoundCloud rappers be sipping, along with some other hardcore meds. So since I know popping pills all day for 2 weeks can't be much worse than smoking weed, I just chose the one that also makes being crippled a bit more enjoyable. But you know, obviously I'm not a doctor, so don't be just listening to what I say. Every injury is different and what worked for me might not for you. Anyway, next reason, you're hanging out with friends and don't want to drink and be hungover the next day. Would you believe me if I told you smoking weed is actually enjoyable at parties? I think some of you would, but the majority probably wouldn't. And there's a couple reasons for that. A big one that you gotta fix yourself would be that you get anxious when you're high around new people. But the other one I've heard countless times is that being high just makes me want to sit on the couch the whole time. And that can be true, but all you gotta do for that is fight the urge to be lazy, because I'm telling you from personal experience, one of the funnest high activities by far is blazing up with a friend at a party where everybody else is hammered. I just can't help but notice that everybody drunk turns into NPCs. I be sitting on the couch with the homie Salamander watching all these dudes doing their free assigned activities on some Pal World shit. I know this might make me look like a dick, but this one time we got high at this house party and chose this one alpha chat guy to just observe, and I kid you not, dude was like a Terraria villager, rotating between slamming shots with his friends, trying to spit game to the hoes, and comparing dick sizes with other dudes.
Ugh, that was some strong stuff.
Damn. Hey, yo guys, check out the Rizzler. Hey, what's up, beautiful? Having fun? Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to find my friend, bye.
Okay. Hey, Tony! Let's arm wrestle.
Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like doing those free things is unfun. All I'm trying to say is that when you're high, you realize the ridiculousness of what a party actually is and can just observe it with your high friend and banter away. But there is a reason that trumps all others, a situation where it's near impossible to not get the full enjoyment of the gas, the best bang for buck you're gonna get when you trade a small percentage of your lung capacity and cardiovascular health for the fade. And that's, of course, you have the CBD bro bomb. Okay, it's actually, you plan to smoke sesh ahead for a completely free day. I think some of you might have expected something a bit more extravagant, a bit more, I don't know, eye-opening. But no, unfortunately, there is no magic.
Number 1. Your homie discovered a crashed alien ship from which gained the knowledge of the universe and some otherworldly gas. Time to get absolutely shreked.
Cause I hate to break it to you, but if your homie ever tells you something like that, that universal knowledge is probably just the mushrooms he ate, and that otherworldly gas is referring to the moon rock he bought at the dispensary. And going and smoking with that friend, however much you like him, probably isn't a good reason, especially cause it's a Tuesday morning and, you know, you should probably go to work and maybe set up an intervention for him. Mans doesn't seem to be in a good place. Anyway, overusing psychedelics and ruining your life aside, the best reason to get high, in my opinion, is when you plan it ahead and have a mega sesh with your homies. This one is basically the same as the first reason, but even better because it combines both banter with your friends and the lowest chance of anxiety because the fade is planned ahead. Therefore, your brain already scheduled a server maintenance for that time, allowing you to drop IQ points without worrying about a situation arising where you need them. And it really is hard to beat lighting one up with the people you enjoy talking and listening to, cause although technically getting high will never be the best move you can make to achieve your goals and shit, if you smoke up for reasons such as listed in this video, I promise you, aside from the health implications it might have, the ZA won't affect your life negatively, but rather give you a break from your daily grind and make you slow down a bit to appreciate everything you have. Every type of cannabis explained, from weakest to strongest. We'll be looking at everything from the near oregano low-grade flower that you probably smoked in high school to the most insane near 100% THC concentrates that are sold at the top shelves of Cali dispensaries. Additionally, with the help of science and medical studies, we'll be categorizing each type of cannabis in the spectrum of entertainment, medical, creativity, and just plain old unhealthy. The objective of this video is to educate the public about the positives and negatives of weed in an entertaining way, but to do that, it is essential we discover how extremely varying different types of marijuana can be and why generalizing it as weed is good or weed is bad is just plain impossible. So without further ado, let's get into the weakest type of ZA there is, and that is low percentage THC flower and or CBD dominant strains. Okay, so I went into this video presuming you already know what THC and CBD is, but in case you don't, let's quickly summarize. THC is the chemical compound found in cannabis that makes you when the Family Guy becomes so funny, aka the munchies, laughter, feelings of euphoria, and overall its psychoactive effects come from THC. And CBD is the compound that reduces anxiety and can potentially help against depression, although the latter isn't as conclusive. There's also two distinct types of cannabis unrelated to its THC percentage, called sativa and indica, with sativa providing more of an energetic mind high and indica leaning towards a relaxing body high. So when we are talking about low percentage THC flower, aka 1 to 6% THC with a high concentration of CBD, we are in the realms of medical marijuana, meaning this type of weed, besides pure CBD of course, is the least intoxicating and can be potentially helpful to people with varying mental health issues. Just always keep in mind, smoking anything is harmful for our lungs, and even though this type of cannabis can be considered medical, it really depends on the person, their psyche, and what issues they are experiencing. So now we know low percentage THC flower links to the medical side, but what about entertainment and creativity? Well, although this type of cannabis won't have you staring at your wall for 30 minutes plotting your trip to the kitchen, it can, however, still give you a different perspective on things. Unrealistic feelings of euphoria and cartoonish thoughts probably won't occur, but that doesn't mean your creativity won't be affected at all. You might not come up with the next Rick and Morty while under the influence of this gas, but you could come up with creative solutions to pre-existing problems or give you a slightly different perspective on what you're doing. Coupled with the high concentration of CBD, which could help you feel more at ease and reduce possible anxiety that might have been attached to you before, this type of weed is best for beginners or people who could be trying to reduce their weed dependency without going straight up cold turkey. And that's why it lands itself in the far end of the medical spectrum, but not so much in the creativity and entertainment part of the fucking thing. Anyway, moving on, mid-grade THC flower, the mid-shelf gas. I won't go over this too long as it's quite similar to the previous one, but with slight differences. Mid-grade flower usually ranges between 10 to 20% THC with varying levels of CBD, which general rule of thumb is for medical use, go with the highest CBD percentage, and if you just want to get faded with your friends and play split screen Minecraft, get the one with the highest THC. Just make sure it still has some CBD in it so you don't, well, green the fuck out. Why I say that is because contrary to popular belief, CBD and THC do not bind to the same receptors in our brains, but through various studies and my own personal experience, CBD in most cases can reduce the adverse effects caused by THC, aka freaking out, feelings of discomfort, spikes in anxiety, etc. That's why even if you're an experienced stoner, it's good to have some CBD oil or flower that can help you if you're getting those unwanted side effects from some high percentage THC cannabis. So this type of weed lends itself higher in creativity and entertainment, but a bit lower in terms of its medical benefits. Moving on, high percentage THC flower, aka premium bud. This is the point where we start leaning much further away from the medical side into the entertainment and creativity side. High-end flower usually ranges between 20 to 35% THC, and unfortunately most of this top shelf flower is engineered to have very little or sometimes nearly zero CBD, which is why I said that this is the point where we really start deviating away from the term medical cannabis. But you might be asking, why can't I just get my flower with both high CBD and THC, you stupid Well, let me explain. Cannabis plants can naturally express high levels of either THC or CBD, but rarely both. This is because THC and CBD are derived from the same precursor, CBGA. The plant's genetics determine which enzyme, THC synthase or CBD synthase, is more active. In high THC strains, the THC synthase enzyme dominates, converting most CBGA into THC, leaving little room for CBD production. To add to it, cannabis growers have traditionally bred plants to maximize THC levels because of its psychoactive effects, which are highly sought after in recreational markets. Over time, this selective breeding reduced the expression of CBD in high THC strains, as the two cannabinoids tend to work in an inverse relationship. So it's also unfortunately us, the consumer's fault, that super high THC and low CBD percentage is the baseline for top shelf gas these days. With brands constantly trying to compete with each other and providing the most mind-boggling high possible, there isn't really a lot of demand for high percentage CBD flower that still gets you very high. People buying weed for recreational use usually only care about the get you very high part. But I'm not saying that there is absolutely no place for this type of weed in the medical world, but it is extremely situational. The same way as inviting a friend out to have a couple drinks and watch the game on a Saturday night to alleviate the stress and anxiety from a hard week of work, this high THC flower can be a fun night to blow off steam and take your mind off real world problems for a while because, well, this shit could have you so obliterated you'll be using 100% of your brain power on figuring out how to tie your shoe, bruh. AKA, this is imagination land. I'm kinda going off personal experience on this, but the artists and musicians I know seem to enjoy this type of cannabis the most, as it can completely block off the real world and enter you into this trance state where you are 100% focused on whatever you are doing.
But CBD, bro, doesn't that mean it helps with ADHD and anxiety?
In the moment it can, unless, well, you couldn't handle it and are instead rolled up in a ball on your couch focusing on defeating your demons. Anyway, multiple medical studies have shown that high concentration THC flower does not help against anxiety, depression, and ADHD at all. What it does instead is give you an escape from your ADHD, depression, or anxiety for a brief moment whilst under the influence, and even that doesn't come without a cost. As if you smoke too much of this high THC flower, or really any weed, you'll build up a dependency and in return feel even more distracted, have more anxiety, and increased levels of depression whilst not under the influence. AKA, if your friend claims to be smoking that top shelf Zaza for anything else than a fun time, he's either lying to you, himself, or he's just been smoking up for so long he doesn't even remember what it was like to be sober in the first place. So through everything we talked about, I'll have to place this type of cannabis right on the border of unhealthy and and medical, with a very high level of creativity and entertainment. But now let's talk about our first non-farm-to-table cannabis, and that is hash, aka traditional concentrate. Hash, short for hashish, is one of the oldest cannabis concentrates made by collecting and compressing the trichomes, resin glands, of the cannabis plant. These trichomes contain the plant's cannabinoids and terpenes, making hash potent and flavorful. The potency varies heavily depending on the plant that was used to make it, but in general, they can range anywhere between 20 to 60% THC. The biggest difference that me and other smokers I've talked to have noticed is that the high from hash, although quite strong, is usually shorter. And because this stuff is concentrated, 1 gram of hash will almost always get you higher than 1 gram of flower. The good thing about hash is, although it is concentrated cannabis, it is still natural. Traditional methods of making hash do not use any chemicals or solvents. Instead, they rely on mechanical processes like rubbing, sifting, or using ice water to extract the resin. Because of the wide variety of potency, it's quite hard to place this on our spectrum, but I'm going to put it just a bit closer to the medical side than the high potency flower, and a bit less to the creative side due to its shorter duration, which can make entering that trance state I talked about a bit hard. Other concentrates, 60 to 95% THC. Besides hash, there's like 10 different ways to get THC concentrate from the Zaza, some of which don't use solvents and some that do. If I were to go over every single one individually, this video would probably be like 30 minutes. And since there isn't really a huge difference in potency between them, I'll quickly summarize. Rosin, made by applying heat and pressure to cannabis flower, key for hash to extract resin. Live rosin, a solventless concentrate made from fresh frozen cannabis that's first turned into bubble hash and then pressed into rosin. Shatter or wax, extracted using butane or propane and then purged to remove residual solvents. Live resin, extracted from flash frozen cannabis using butane or propane, then purged. Diamonds, THC crystals. THC is crystallized using hydrocarbons and solvent-based processes. THC distillate, cannabinoids are extracted using solvents, aka ethanol or CO2, and then refined through distillation. Phew! And those are the most popular concentrates, which the most flavorful are usually live resin or rosin, as these retain the most terpenes. And the strongest concentrates are usually diamonds or THC distillate. But the reality is, unless you're like a super stoner, you probably won't be able to tell much of a difference between all of them, as every single concentrate is bound to get you absolutely bamboozled, unless you know, of course, you have an insane tolerance. The main takeaway from concentrated THC is that it builds up your Zaza tolerance very fast compared to regular bud because of its high potency and usually shorter duration, making you smoke up more often. Which is why I will be placing them closer to the unhealthy side, but also the entertainment side due to the mind-boggling high it gives. But now onto the strongest type of smokable weed there is, in my opinion, and that is infused flower, aka moonrock or sunrock, 50 to 80% THC. You might be asking yourself why infused flower is ranked higher than concentrates when the THC percentage is actually lower. Well, take it from me, as someone who has done both dabs, aka concentrate, and infused flower, the small difference in THC percentage really doesn't matter in this case. The reason for that is, unlike dabs or the Benjamin, which on average has a shorter duration than bud, infused flower gives you the insane kick of concentrate whilst also providing the longer effect of normal bud, which in my eyes makes this the most potent smokable weed on planet Earth, but feel free to have a war in the comments about it. I'll be reading every single one like always. Placement on the spectrum will almost be the same as concentrate, but because you won't be smoking up as frequently and in return damaging your lungs a bit less, I'll put it just a bit closer to the medical side, but still definitely unhealthy. Now for the last type of Zaza that is in a league of its own, and that is of course edibles. Infinite THC percentage. Why I rank Eddies as the strongest type of weed is quite simple. In the act of cooking cannabis, it turns into something different, something otherworldly, something psychedelic. If you watch some of my other videos, you'd know that I view super potent edibles as something entirely different than normal weed. I'd even go as far and compare them to mushrooms. And science has my back on this because when you digest THC in your liver, it turns into something far more potent, and return when you go to the cinema and watch Oppenheimer, you'll probably be overwhelmed and geeked the fuck out. You know, back in the day, if you wanted to get high discreetly, well, sorry bro, there was no way. I mean, you got the J, which stanks up everything. You got the bong, which although doesn't stank as much, where you gonna hide it? Imagine trying to sneak by your parents on some... What you doing dropping shit at a time like this, boy? Downstairs, I came for, I came down, I wanted a glass of water, yeah. Boy, you must be neurologically disabled if you think that'll excuse you from breaking some dusty-ass dollar store piece and spilling bong water all over my goddamn living room. No, it's... Here, take a smack of this shit.
It'll get you proper, boy.
Well, that sounds like a pretty fun... Anyway, point is, you're not gonna be hiding that shit for long. Only real option you had was the pipe. But bro, at that point, you sacrificing everything you got for one high. Like, I swear, the pipe is the last way anybody in their right mind wants to get faded. Every time I hit it, it's like my lungs and throat revert back to factory settings, like I ain't never inhaled anything besides O2 before. Basically, by smacking the pipe, you're hurting your lungs and throat to the point it kind of fucks up the first 30 minutes of your high. And that's exactly why when the first Benjamin was invented by the scientists at Yodiland, it changed the game, bruh. Never before could you get obliterated on the go regardless of where you were or what you were doing. And thanks to that, getting high has become so damn easy, you got motherfuckers making obliteration their normal state. Never before could someone do anything even remotely sus and you could just assume they were fucking high. My man had sunglasses on for no reason, faded. Dude was staring somewhere for a bit too long, obliterated. Dude went to White Castle for a culinary experience. Well, that motherfucker's just weird.
Goddamn cafeteria food.
And you can forget about gas stations and fast food places. I mean, at this point, it's like damn near mandatory to be blasted on the job. And I got nothing against that, just since 90% of the time I find myself at 7-Eleven, I'm fried too, and the motherfucker that's supposed to be helping me is trying to scan my items with his damn iPhone. Nah, but for real, the pace that these fried motherfuckers work at is fine when your brain is running at the same low frequency, but if you're in a rush, it'll take damn near every ounce of mental strength you got to stop yourself from forcing a damn self-checkout.
Would you like a bag with that, sir?
Fuck no, here's the money, just give me my shit. But don't get me wrong, I got nothing against a good old Benjamin. There really ain't a better on-the-go, fast and easy way to get faded. Unfortunately, I didn't go to college and kinda cheated my way through high school too, so the 15 or so brain cells I was able to develop that keep me from losing and forgetting shit turned into, well, basically zero. And for that reason, I've already lost 2 of them. One of them slipped out my pocket while I was at the movies, and I'm pretty sure some teenagers stole it, cause after the film, when I was looking for it with my flashlight and shit, these motherfuckers were giggling in the back, looking at me like I was a damn circus clown. Coupled with the fact I was fried as fuck, I was fighting my tears. Dog. I just got robbed by some damn teens and I can't even do shit cause it was illegal to even bring it in there. Second one I lost in a very similar manner. As I was getting out my Uber going back home, my sweatpants did me dirty and flinged that fucker out as I was standing up. Took me 2 minutes to realize, and when I did, my Uber driver was probably already hitting that shit cause when I called him back to ask for it, he said,
Let me check. It seems that you only left me a $1 tip. Sorry, I couldn't find it.
And that one hurt the most because that was the first pen I ever had and the one I used for my first Benjamin adventure, which my first time was, well, by far the highest I have ever been in my life. I'm talking freaky, I'm talking third person. Shit, it was the first time in years I truly greened the thaw out. For you see, normal weed or bud is just that, normal. So the strength of it is confined in the realms of reality, unless you know it, it's moon rock. Anyway, the biggest difference between smacking a pen versus, let's say, a J is that the pen doesn't have normal bud in it. It has concentrate, which, if you're unaware like I was, is about 10 to 20 times stronger than bud. Knowing that, the best way to get faded off the pen is by just taking small rips to avoid getting sent into the goddamn shadow realm. For example, the YouTuber Damien Luck 925 is very well known for taking multiple blinkers, which is the biggest hit you can take, outside in social situations, most notably in random classrooms, like it's nothing. So me being at my USA Airbnb alone in the confines of my living room, thought to myself, okay, so it looks like the basic hit I should do at least is 1 blinker, but probably more. Yet what was waiting for me on the other side of Blinker City was something I was not prepared for. Something unholy. The voices. I'll never forget the horrible things they were whispering. They made me almost delete my YouTube channel. Anyway, it started with me ordering a 1-gram pen off of Weed Amazon, and it arrived the very next day in a beat-up Cadillac with a delivery man who, from the looks of it, tests out every product he delivers just, to make sure the quality is there. Yo, bro, you're here for the weed, right? You got the cash? Yeah, I ordered through your website, though. It should be paid for already. Yeah, I forgot I'd take online orders now, too. Anyway, here's the stuff, bro. I trust you. Hey, thanks, bro. Have a good one. You too, man.
Hello, Hello, Mr. Bro. We got a delivery for you from Weed Amazon that should be arriving in an hour or so. Will you be home then?
Wait, didn't I just...
I'm a gorilla in a fucking scoop. Gonna pull up to the zoo.
Oh, I better get out of here.
So I went back to the crib, Benjamin in hand, and prepared myself to get faded. And obviously, I went for a blinker my very first hit. But since I had never smacked a pen before, I inhaled it for about 4 seconds and stopped because it was so light on my throat, I thought it wasn't working, but it actually was. And from that 4-second puff, I was already quite bamboozled. But since I have this weird rule of every time I get new stuff, I break it in by doing a massive hit, I thought, well, fuck. I was supposed to do a blinker, and went for it again. I inhaled and inhaled for a good 8 to 10 seconds, but the thing just wouldn't fucking blink. It got to the point where there was tears coming from my eyes and my throat was begging me to stop, and it ended up like... I had made a grave mistake. I was so fucking high, I felt my soul leave my body. I was so high, I forgot I was even high. But it was just the beginning, cause over the next 10 minutes, I just kept on getting more faded, and the demons in my head kept on getting louder and louder. But if you know me, I kinda refused to green out, so I just kept on doing random shit like reading the ingredients list off my bag of M&Ms, reading the comments on my videos.
Change that dark glow. Do things has changed for real. Imagine helping another YouTuber.
Kill yourself!
Was not doing good. I was keeping a strong facade, but inside there was a war going on. I was feeling like Naruto with the 9 tails, only instead of an all-powerful destructive force talking to me, I was just really fucking high. Anyway, so yeah, I was grading out, which hadn't happened to me in years, and I concluded that because the voice of reason was completely being outspoken by the voice of tweaking. The good news is though, the hype from the Benjamin doesn't last too long, and in about 1 to 2 hours, I had started coming down, but at that point, I was already crawled up in my bed, scrolling endlessly on my phone, until I finally reached a state where I felt good enough to come out of emergency mode and order some food and ate myself into a food coma. So I learned, well, firstly, that motherfucker Fulcrum is actually insane, or his tolerance is just something else, bro, and that the Benjamin is best enjoyed in puffs of 3 to 5 seconds and not blinkers.
Greening out or getting too high is the worst thing that can happen when inhaling that freshly cut grass. If you have a sudden emergency or miscalculate the size of the portion, things can turn south real quick. One moment, you're chilling in your room having the time of your life playing Minecraft or some shit. Next thing you know, the green forcefully teleports your brain into a realm filled with the demons of your nightmares. And once the grass pushes you over that border, it ain't no easy task to get back to Yodi land. But not to worry, for D who masters the green out, masters the universe. Okay, well that's kind of an overstatement, but nah, for real. If you want to learn how to never green out again, then you're in the right place. Cause being that I do have a PhD in spliff rolling, a master's degree in avoiding bad trips, and a bachelor's in high thoughts, I am more than qualified to teach you the ways of the Tsar. First things first, what are the symptoms of feeling too high? Well, the Cambridge Dictionary describes greening out as greening out is a term described as being so goddamn high that you start tweaking like a schizophrenic that hasn't taken his pills for a week. The symptoms of this state include dry mouth, anxiety, paranoia, thinking of that one time you should have done that one thing a little bit differently, etc. As we can see, greening out is obviously not a pleasurable experience, and to know how to counteract this phenomenon, we must analyze the 3 main types of greenouts. Number 1. The pure Kush coma greenout. Starting with the good old Kush coma. Being one of the most commonly occurring greenouts, it can be caused by many factors like overestimating your tolerance, smoking an unexpectedly strong strain, or the one I have seen the most, not correctly gauging the situation and how much fadedness it requires/allows. So let's say you're gonna be going over to a small little function with a couple of your buddies. Now, if the goal of said function isn't to all unifiedly test the boundaries of high, then I wouldn't recommend hogging the spliff in the rotation for too long, cause you best believe when everyone is chatting and having a good time and you're just laying on the couch like a sloth, you'll be wishing that you were a little bit more generous in the prior rotation. Plus the guy who falls asleep.
Hey, remember that cursed movie you watched as a kid?
Yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah, it was. But you're enjoying this salsa too much lately, so I'm just gonna make your brain think that it was real, so you get real spooked and can't sleep all night. That cool?
What? No!
Okay, bye. rarest one. Number 3, the situational green out. Even though this one doesn't happen often because most people who decide to get faded into Universe 7 plan out a safe area where they can enjoy the grass in comfort. All that being said, however well you plan, there is always the chance of an urgent mission popping up. And I mean, what can you really do when, I don't know, your homie's about to be jumped by a ragtag bunch of 13-year-old UK roadmen? The only correct answer is you gotta get your baked ass up from that couch you've melded with, pull up on the situation, and handle it like a man. Could you guys stop calling my friend the waste man, whatever that means? Man, shut up, blood, before you get chinged by the mandem, plotty waste man in it. What, I'm not a waste man, okay? And I can see we're not getting anywhere, so I'm gonna go now. Ching him up. Okay, well, you're probably not gonna be in situations exactly like that, but you get what I mean. Now that we've learned about all the types of green outs, how do we counteract them? Well, if I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't have that master's degree in avoiding bad trips, although the split rolling one was not a lie, and therefore I did nothing wrong. By Prime Energy. But it's rather simple. To avoid the Kush coma, don't smoke as much Kush. The anxiety green out can easily be avoided with basic strategies, so if you're going to a place filled with new people, it's probably not the best idea to hit that double Benjamin. And the last one, well, can't do nothing about that. Just hope you don't get chinged, I guess.
Laying off the za, taking a break, letting your body recalibrate back to life without funny little brain receptor ticklers. Truly a difficult time for us lettuce enjoyers, but unfortunately, it's a challenge we must all face every once in a while. To uphold the good name of the magic green plant, and to prove the blasphemy wrong.
Oh, you say grass isn't addictive, yet you do it every day. Sounds like a closet addiction.
And listen, that is, in all honesty, a pretty solid argument and not an easy one to fight with a straight face. The only real counter is this. You must have proven to yourself that you can, in fact, put the lettuce down whenever you want. Debates with non-believers aside though, the real reason you and I should take breaks every now and then isn't to win arguments with old people, it's to keep the Zaza magical. Something you look forward to, not something you rely on just to function. Because, trust me, I've been there, faded 24/7, tolerance so cooked that you're blasting a whole bowl of exotic and thinking, yeah, I could go for another. And so I urge you, trust me on this, as the greatest Zaza content creator on this platform, heed my warning. The fun of the grass is at its peak when you are in control. Control of your life, your goals, your work or studies, and the Lord's Loud is used as a reward for a hard day's work, not the prerequisite for starting the day. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the only healthy relationship with the lettuce is limiting yourself to one sacred nighttime toke. That's a great stable place to be, but let's be real. It's 2026, remote work, online jobs, online school, at-home potato life. It would be unreasonable to never get faded on a productive day. But, and this is a big but, you must do it knowingly. Not, oh, what a great morning. More like, oh, what a great morning. Work. Woo! Got most of my stuff done. Still got a bit left, but I'ma do it faded. That's the difference. Control first, za second. But keeping a healthy balance is more than just smoking like a chimney for half a year, basically living in a constant state of mild brain off mode, and then randomly deciding, alright, I guess I'll take a week off. Because let's be honest about how that usually goes. That 1 week isn't spent improving your life, it's spent feeling vaguely sad that everything is low-key boring, counting down the days until the break is over and romanticizing the first tote back. And then once the time finally arrives, you proceed to launch yourself straight back to ground zero within 2 days. Tolerance reset, cancel. Honestly, tolerance breaks are kind of overrated. Now, don't get me wrong, they are absolutely needed every once in a while, mostly just to prove to yourself that you do not need the lettuce. You just like having the grass in your life and don't see it as more destructive than having a few drinks with the boys on the weekend. But what you should really be focusing on isn't tolerance breaks, it's tolerance maintenance. Instead of reaching the point where you're watching self-improvement videos telling you that the lettuce is the root of all your problems, It's far better to keep consumption at levels where you never spiral into that rabbit hole in the first place. Let me give you a very realistic example. Let's say you just came off a 2-day World of Warcraft bender, faded 24/7. Weekend's over, Monday hits. You know deep down you should probably do something productive instead of screaming at your teammates for not knowing molten core mechanics. Anyway, at this point, there are 2 realistic paths you can take, whether you like it or not. Path A. You tell yourself, yeah, I'll be productive after I take this fat dab. You sit down at your PC, that big wow desktop icon is staring directly into your soul. You manage about 15 minutes of work stretched across 3 hours because the rest of the time you're thinking about some random funny thoughts, scrolling YouTube, or mentally planning your next gear upgrade path. Eventually, after what feels like an eternity, you start playing WoW. And you smoke some more because, you're already faded was a little extra. And so on and so on. Until a few weeks or months later, you wake up with peak brain fog, zero appetite for breakfast, only cravings for the Lord's Loud, and you think, damn, it's this darn grass ruining my life. I need to quit. So you take a week off. It's empty. You want to get faded, but you can't. And then you either repeat the cycle again in a month or 2, or you quit forever because you realize staying on this emotional roller coaster for the rest of your life probably isn't healthy. Or path B. You decide that no, you're not going to sabotage your few clear-headed hours of productivity today. You get your stuff done first. Then and only then you get faded and enjoy your game. Maybe with a proper bender waiting for you next weekend. This way you still get to look forward to getting faded and your tolerance slowly drifts back to normal because your consumption naturally went from 7 bowls a day on the weekend to 1, maybe half a bowl during the week. No dramatic quitting, no identity crisis, no grass ruin my life YouTube thumbnails, just control, and that's the whole point. But how do I know when I should take a tolerance break? And how do I know when I'm not in control anymore? Thankfully, it's actually pretty simple, assuming you have a relatively healthy, balanced relationship with the grass compared to your other hobbies. A good time to take a break is when your life already feels full, when you've got interesting stuff going on, things you're generally looking forward to. At that point, you don't really need the extra wonder of the za. This usually lines up naturally with your other hobbies. If you got a packed week ahead, gym sessions, projects, plans, games, whatever, it can be the perfect time to take your bi-yearly, yearly, or whatever makes sense break from the lettuce. It'll probably be so easy you won't even notice it. But there's an asterisk here. This only works if you already have a healthy relationship with the Lord's Loud. A relationship where not everything in your life has to be done faded. Now, a bad time to take a break, if there even is such a thing, is when you're staring down a completely dead week. All your friends are busy or away, it's cold outside, nothing's happening, maybe your CrossFit, Pilates, football, whatever trainer is sick, maybe you're sick, maybe all you can realistically do is sit at home and exist. That's the exact time frame where you're going to miss the fade way more than usual, and try to force a break during a period like that can be genuinely difficult, even for someone who normally has their consumption under control. For example, I've recently been dealing with a bit of an injury, which means I've been bedrotting at home for the past few weeks, and I'm not ashamed to admit I've been faded more often than usual. Because, well, I got nothing to do. But I don't feel bad about it. I'm not questioning whether I'm still in control. Why? Because I literally just came off a 2-week break where I didn't struggle at all. Sure, at night you might think, man, this show is good, but it'd even be better if I was faded. That thought still exists, but during the rest of the day when I was actually doing things, I didn't even think about it. And that's why I can enjoy a controlled Zaza bender without guilt. Honestly, I don't see why I can't have the Lord's Loud be a part of my life for a very long time, maybe forever. I enjoy being faded. I enjoy it more than like 95% of the people I know. I choose to partake in the lettuce because it generally fits my personality and my hobbies. But I'm not stupid. I know it can be addictive and I treat it like any other vice. Just one I'm consciously willing to balance for the foreseeable future. Dabs, the world's strongest saw, or so I have been told. In reality, dabs can't really be considered the world's strongest saw because it's technically not weed anymore. It's the extract of it. And although there are natural and unnatural ways to extract that THC, the end result is always the same: super potent, sticky, icky wax. You see, wax is like the express lane of cannabis. If the express lane was designed to launch you into a high so intense, you'll wonder if you just got teleported. transported. It's a concentrated form of cannabis where all the THC and terpenes have been extracted from the plant into a sticky wax-like substance. Think of it as the espresso shot of weed. It's quick, potent, and designed to get you where you're going fast. Wax generally contains anywhere from 60 to 90% THC. That's right, you're basically inhaling a THC rocket launcher. A little dab, literally a small dot of wax, is enough to send you to the moon and back in no time, which, let's be honest, might be exactly what you're looking for, but anyway. The extraction process typically involves solvents like butane or CO2, which separate the THC from the plant material. The result is a gooey concentrate that can resemble something between honey and a gummy bear's worst nightmare. And if you think it looks a little sus, that's because it probably should. Just make sure you know what you're doing with the dab rig, or you might end up with an accidental science experiment that doesn't go quite as planned. Now, you might be wondering, CBD bro, what's the difference between like strong bud and dabs, eh? What's up with that? Glad you asked, my little munchkin. Bud typically contains around 15 to 25% THC, depending on the strain and how good your dealer is. This means it's still potent, but you won't be crossing into a parallel universe with a single puff. You get a slower, more gradual high that builds up over time, kind of like gently being rocked into a nice little nap. Unlike wax, which is concentrated and intense, bud is the slower burner of the weed world. Sure, you'll still get high, but it's more of a let's hang out and take our time with this situation. Like sipping on a glass of wine versus chugging a bottle of tequila. You'll get the same effect, but one will probably leave you with fewer regrets. To put it simply, wax is like the hardcore version of cannabis, while bud is like the I'm just here to enjoy myself version. Both will get you high, but one will probably make you rethink your life just a little bit. So what made me want to try dabs in the first place? Well, you see, as the modern day Columbus, I like to view myself as a discoverer, and having tried every type of grass besides wax, it kind of bugged me that I didn't have any knowledge of the latter. And so, for science, my own personal curiosity, and educational purposes, I decided to test it out so I can stand here and tell you not to try it. Here is my experience with the dabs. Let me set the scene for you. I have been in Florida smoking up every day on that not CBD Zaza legal nationwide, baby. Don't get high off your own supply, they say. But since the supply was in a warehouse, I thought it didn't apply. Problem was, with 24/7 online access to premium bud, I got my tolerance up to levels I honestly didn't think was possible for me. But Florida is not the place this story takes place. It was just a prologue. After building up a Dracula castle-sized fort of tolerance in my body for 2 months, I flew my badonkadonk to Denver, Colorado, where ZA is legal on the state level. And I don't know if I just got lucky 3 times in a row, or Denver has more dispensaries than grocery stores, but for some reason, every hotel I stayed at had a right outside the door, like it was part of their compound or some shit. Anyway, once I arrived in my first hotel, I had no real plans of going to Dabbington City. In fact, I assumed because Colorado is like the capital of ZA, I could achieve the fate I was chasing by just buying some premium bud. But alas, turns out the not CBD grass I had been puffing prior was on the same level as the stuff in the dispensaries, and due to the insane tolerance I had built up, it wasn't really getting me where I was trying to go. However, because I had bought a whole ounce thinking it would be more potent, I was kinda stuck smoking a shitload of it for a while. It wasn't until I went to my next hotel when I finally ran out and was in the market for some exotic again. But this time I knew flour wasn't going to be enough. If I was going to end my multi-month US trip with a bang, I needed something that would face my insane tolerance and overcome it. Push me back into Yodi land one last time. So I went to this and explained my situation to the clerk. Hello sir, what can I get for you today? Yeah, so I'm looking for something strong. Well, in that case, I guess I recommend edibles, maybe some moon rock or dabs. What do you like? I've never done dabs before, but I have heard that they're very potent, so I guess I'll go with them. Fabulous choice, sir. I have 3 types here. The cheap stuff, the good stuff, and the insane stuff. It was at this moment that I sealed my fate. My overconfidence consumed me, and I answered, "Give me that insane shit, bruh." 92% THC is the wax I received, and to all you ZA experts who are already typing, "THC% doesn't mean anything. Has this guy ever even smoked before? LOL. I live in my basement alone, and all I smoke is that exotic." Nah, for real, bro. Last video, some dude said what matters most is the plant's DNA and its heritage. Like your average smoker is gonna walk into this on some,
Excuse me, could you tell me about the DNA compensation of this za? Yeah, I don't know, bro. It says OG. Of course I see that, but tell me about the history of this particular plant. Were its ancestors also original gangster? Look, man, I get $14 an hour here. I don't freaking know. I've smoked it before. It's pretty good.
Anyway, now that I got my premium dabs, I needed a way to smoke it, but because I knew doing dabs is not as easy as just, say, ripping a BONG, I decided to do a bit of research before buying any equipment. So I went to the closest Starbucks, sat down, and...
This is what you're gonna need. A cap, a nail, terp spinner, which is optional, a rig, Q-tips, a torch, a timer, dab tool, and a set of lungs.
Well, that's ridiculous.
I knew it wasn't simple, but what the fuck is the main thought that went through my brain. I had no idea you needed a whole damn chemistry kit to take a dab, but I had already committed. I mean, that premium wax wasn't cheap, and I was determined to finish what I had started. So I went to the closest smoke shop like,
hello there, can I help you with anything?
yeah, so, I need a cap, a nail, a spinner, a rig, Q-tips, alcohol, a torch, a timer, and finally, a dab tool. Do you have all of that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can find all that stuff around here somewhere, but you could just buy this electronic pen. Probably be a bit easier. Oh, well, sure, but does it include, a cap, a nail, a terp? No, but, like, you can do a dab with it. Oh, fantastic. I'll take.
As it turns out, all you really need to take a dab is an e-pen, but I'm sure I'll be lecturing in the comments about how that's not the same and how I've never even been high before. Anyway, I was now almost ready to enter into Dabbington City, but it was not gonna be easy, as I was staying at a no-smoke hotel. So I grabbed all my stuff, walked like 10 feet from the hotel, loaded my dab, and...
Oh. It's not on.
So I put it on the high setting, waited a couple seconds, and prepared to smack it again. I was done. Finished, bamboozled. No words can describe how absolutely grade A I was. I knew from the moment I exhaled that I needed to get to my room as fast as possible because this high instantly reminded me of when I first blinkered a Benjamin, only even more intense. I felt like my eyes had caved into my brain, making me more third person than first. Also, I could detect every organ in my body individually, and the sound of my heartbeats were constantly playing like some background music. I don't even know if I finished the whole dab, but I just knew I had to skedaddle before I...
Wait, is it a bit cold? No. No.
You see, I have this weird, awful debuff I only get sometimes when I'm like really hot. And this is the misperception of being extremely cold. It's like this weird trigger I have when I get too faded, and because I've experienced it so many times, it's like this unholy intrusive thought that I just can't avoid. You can imagine my situation was not ideal. I was tweaking harder than I probably ever have before, and I just started slowly walking back to my hotel trying to think of anything besides my bodily functions. I made it back inside, still shivering from my mental debuff, and walked to the elevator as fast as I could, where I had an awkward encounter with a fellow guest.
I'm a swerve in the corner.
Is it really that cold outside?
No, it's pretty warm actually.
Oh. Okay. That dude must have thought he just talked to a local crackhead. But anyway, the instant I got back to my room, I snuggled into my bed to warm up and hopefully stop tweaking, which eventually I did, but I was still scared to leave the comfort on my warm sheets, so I just kind of watched fun YouTube videos until I came down a bit. After about 30 minutes, I stopped geeking and instantly ordered some food, but not just any food. I ordered a large Baconator combo from Wendy's like a true American. And I know I say this every high story, but this time I can't emphasize it enough. That shit was bussin'. Combine my already empty stomach with the wax high, then throw in bacon, cheese, and lettuce. Yeah, I added lettuce to my burger. Why? Because fitness isn't a choice. It's a lifestyle. So, sorry to disappoint you guys, but really that's about all that happened. The high was very similar to my first Benjamin. Tweak it first, vibe later. Will I be doing dabs again? Probably not, because they're pretty expensive and build up your tolerance super fast. Did I enjoy my time in Dabbington City? Well, besides the first 30 minutes where my brain got Doctor Stranged into Antarctica, it was fun, although it did make me very stupid. As I remember trying to connect my PS5 to my TV, and for like 15 minutes, I was trying to figure out why it wasn't showing up on my screen until I realized,
Oh, I'm missing the HDMI cable.
dumbass.
Edible Zaza, digestible highness, the magical brownie, whatever you want to call it, one thing is for sure, it's strong and it's sneaky. For you see, a magical brownie made with 1 gram of batter does not equal the feeling of inhaling that same batter. What goes inside that oven is nothing short of magic, because when it comes back out after that hyperbolic time chamber training arc, it has truly gone Super Saiyan. And the mistake made by many young warriors is underestimating a Super Saiyan. Because once you eat that self-made magical brownie with no clear understanding of its MG or potency, you could in fact geek the f*** out. Or you might instead find the deeper meaning of the universe, your soul, and of course the infinite goodness of a delicious Oreo cheesecake. But find comfort in the fact that which of these equally possible realities you experience is largely up to you. Because if you know the 5 commandments, the 5 simple rules, your chances of having a successful flight across the stars become tremendously higher. And for those of you who are already decorated veterans in the field, I challenge you to find anything I forgot to mention or any reason you might have as to why I have probably never even been high before. And of course, all of the data that I will be revealing today will be done so in an educational and scientific way so that we as a society can have a better understanding of the subject at hand. So without further ado, the first commandment: never underestimate the Eddie. We've all been there at least once, filling up your bowl of exotic Vietnamese herbal oolong tea, trying to figure out how potent you should make your brew. Yes, last time you put in double your usual and you tweaked for about 30 minutes. But after that, I mean, it was perfect. But that one time you put too little and felt like the flavor wasn't just quite there. Now, in this situation with normal flour, you could probably get away with adding a bit extra and just dealing with the consequences later. But in the case of Eddie's, whether you've got a 50 mg gummy in your hand contemplating it over the 10 mg, or you're making them yourself and about to pour the za and wondering if you should throw in the whole 8 or what, stop! Do not pour in more than whatever your friend or internet blog suggested. You're not him, you're not invincible, you will not endure. Instead, if you're determined to use all of your exotic tea, just make multiple weaker ones, or if you're considering YOLOing the 50 mg gummy, don't. Take the 10 and you'll soon realize it was probably more than enough. And even if it wasn't, you still have the freedom to take another bite later. Because whereas with normal flour, the consequences of overtoking usually last about an hour, with overeating Eddie's, this can last literal hours, sometimes the entire day if taken to the extreme. Eating a 50 instead of a 10, if you're not a Zaza Lord, could make you extremely, borderline too high for over 6 hours and leave you low-key faded for the rest of the day. There's no going back, and that's why you should never underestimate the Eddie. The second commandment: clear your schedule. When entering the land of edible Zaza, one must keep in mind that this trip is not going to be short nor mild. And one thing I know from personal experience is that you do not want to be sitting in that rocket, command center 10 seconds away from liftoff, when all of a sudden you realize, oh no, wait, I was supposed to clean the kitchen. Guys, can you give me a few more minutes? The return flight home is always a ways away when indulging in the Eddie, so to avoid anxiety, unwanted side quests, and even paranoia, make goddamn sure you don't leave anything that you had to do that day undone. Because we must all remember that the gummy high is a fragile one. The intensity is maxed out, but just like normal Zaza, you don't get to choose where your thoughts go. So if you're vibing, playing some Terraria, or chillin' munching on some Reese's Pieces, you want the Zaza to stay locked in on that impossible boss fight. Or if you're hanging with the homies, it can evolve into conversations about obscure references that only like 3 other people on Earth would understand. Those are usually the best highs anyway. But what I'm trying to say is, you want the Eddie to amplify your free day or night of fun, not obscure some stressful task you didn't even want to do. The third commandment: the no phone zone, or at least limit your phone time. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's That's a dumb rule. Being glued to your phone is bad anyway.
And yes, you're right to some extent, but this isn't 2010 anymore. People don't just use their phones for calls and funny cat videos. People use their phones for everything. Work, messages, memes, emails, news. And that's exactly why your phone becomes a wild card when you're high. Yes, you might open it and see your friend sent you a funny video and you laugh and go back to your adventure. But there's an equally possible situation where you open it and now what you saw cannot be unseen. Maybe it's your boss telling you to call him. Maybe it's that one friend you don't really like asking to link. Or maybe you open it and fall into a short-form doom scroll hole where 2 hours later you're deep into politics or gooning on Reddit. And suddenly you feel like a disappointment and the high has been ruined. Not because you were geeking out, but because you just spent 2 hours overloading your dopamine receptors. Better to just put the phone away. And if you really need to Google something, just use your PC instead. The fourth commandment. Be prepared to be stupid. I'll keep this short because most of you already know the ZA tends to make you a bit dumb. Well, dumb isn't the right word. It just takes all of your brain power and redirects it into the creativity sector, leaving you only with your basic cognitive abilities and the ability to think outside the box. Which is actually pretty important, especially in today's society where nobody wants to work for the man. But when you're off the eddy, the inside of that box is so incredibly far away that not only are you not standing in it anymore, you can't even see it. One must simply accept that you are maxing tonight. You don't want to get sudden paranoia or anxiety because you forgot what you were saying halfway through a sentence. Just acknowledge that you are temporarily downgrading your raw processing power in hopes of unlocking new creative avenues later. The fifth and most important commandment: enjoy the ride. Let's be real, even with everything I just told you, there's still a solid chance you might encounter a couple bumps along the way. Wait, what was I talking about? Moments. A couple random zone outs and maybe even one of those...
Wait, what was that sound? If there's a ghost in here, you better come out now, motherfucker. I'll only warn you once. This is the United States of America. We have a flying black burrito worth the entire GDP of most countries. You must be dead-ass stupid if you don't think I have you-know-who on speed dial.
Just remember, you're not going to die. Oxygen is still readily available and no one has ever died or suffered serious long-term consequences from one potent-ass eddy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. 10,000 BC, a group of cavemen in the Oki Islands of Japan needed some warmth and wanted to start a fire when they discovered a funny-looking green plant and either out of curiosity or desperation took it and inadvertently created history's first ever hotbox. Yet this early grass was not that loud that people be smoking today because as we know, over the years the ZA has been scientifically and artificially cultivated to be much more concentrated in the high it gives. So, although it is funny to think about a group of cavemen purposely starting a fire in a small shelter for the sole purpose of getting faded in a hoe, it is unlikely that it actually ever happened. Yet aside from this iffy recreational stint in Japan, hemp was first commonly used in the lands that are modern-day Mongolia and China for more practical uses like eating it. Which, after saying that, you might be imagining something like this. Yo, what's up? How you doing? Had any fun with those new seeds I gave you?
Nah, I actually came here to give them back. Last night I was looking at the moon and I swear that motherfucker was looking right back at me.
But alas, this probably wasn't the reality because the THC levels in this early cultivated Zaza were just really low, but soon the Chinese would discover that the holy plant's fibers were also great for making stuff too, like clothes, paper, and bowstrings. Which turns out hemp fibers were superior to the bamboo ones used by rivaling factions, allowing the Chinese to shoot their arrows much further. So basically, back in the day, if you were having a long distance bow battle and were losing, you might have screamed out, "We need to get closer!"
These motherfuckers have weed.
Anyway, it wasn't long after when mofos realized that the loud wasn't only good for making stuff, it was also great for treating physical maladies. And after a couple thousand years, Emperor Shen Nung, known as the father of Chinese medicine, included the magic plant in his medical encyclopedia under the name Ma. Which, that sounds oddly similar to Za, doesn't it? I'm guessing every couple thousand years the first letter changes or something. But now, let's explore the question we're all asking. When exactly did mofos start ripping that shit to get faded? Well, one of the earliest counts is about 2,500 years ago, when researchers discovered 10 mini barbecues in a cemetery near modern-day Tajikistan that had residue of burnt cannabis with a much higher concentration of THC than normal, probably meaning it was selectively bred to get you, well, lit. Although this was one of the first counts of people purposely inhaling the broccoli to get high, it was most likely used as part of a ritual to invoke an altered state of mind so you could communicate with spirits. Which shit, dog, I wanna know what these dudes were smoking, cause I ain't never heard of no grass that gets you to the spirit realm. This might have low-key been the last kush Snoop Dogg smoked, cause once you get so high you start communicating with your dead gran-gran, that's when you really might be like, okay, I think it's about time I stop smoking this shit. Since cannabis, for one reason or another, proved to be quite the useful plant, people started trading it around the world as soon as it was domesticated. Which the only people who didn't really fuck with the Zaza were Europeans, who preferred getting hammered instead. Which is low-key reflected in modern times too, especially in the northern countries where once you turn 18, you can drink as much poison as you want, but if you want to blaze, well, you might be looking at a little bit of jail time, my boy. But now, let's quickly go over the uses of cannabis throughout different cultures so we can move on to the modern age, starting with Hindus. They made something called Bang, an edible cannabis paste that had medicinal properties but also got you high. This could be added to a variety of foods and drinks, which this Bang was the preferred food of the Hindu god Shiva, making him in my eyes the god of edibles.
Disclaimer, that was a joke.
Islam. Here the Za was called hashish and was introduced about 1,000 years ago, which hashish wasn't strictly forbidden in the Quran at first, so a lot of Muslims ate it for its medicinal and relaxation properties. But later, Egypt basically banned it, and also the Quran was revisited by many and reinterpreted to include hashish to be banned just like alcohol. The Vikings. These dudes basically used the Za to make rope, sailcloth, and other things, but also for its medicinal properties, mostly to relieve pain, and to date, there's no hard evidence that they consumed it for its recreational use, but, you know, maybe they should have, because they were quite the horrendous savages and murderers, so it might have made them think a little bit about peace and love. But what about America, England, and the actual global world powers? How did they react to weed? Well, again, like the Chinese, Europeans and Americans at first prominently used the magic green plant in the 16th to 18th century for more practical things like making sailcloth and rope, which the plant itself grew much larger in the New World soil, and combined with the practicality of it, everything started being hemp-derived. Clothes, paper, well, basically anything that required fibers. But the question still remains, when did mofos start smoking that shit to get blasted on the regular? Cause although at some point you, your neighbor, your grandma, your boss, and even George Washington were out here growing weed, wasn't nobody out here rolling them up. Well, until the arrival of Mexicans. The loud version of hemp first arrived in Brazil in the early 1500s by way of enslaved Africans traveling with the Portuguese. And the native South Americans, who are already consuming some other psychoactive substances, quickly started blazing the Zaza too, and its use soon spread across South America and into Mexico, from which in the 1910s is when the loud first spread into the US, via Mexican immigrants escaping the effects of the Mexican Revolution. And almost immediately the good was viewed as a threat, and by 1931, 29 states had banned its use. Although it wasn't really the Zaza that the US didn't fall with, it was unfortunately mostly just racism against Mexican Americans and black citizens of the South, which both these groups were enjoyers of the Za to some regard, so it became a scapegoat for racial bias in the US, and they blamed it for everything from petty crimes all the way to murder. And in 1937, the US completely banned all non-medical use of weed, which all this kind of explains why the mostly peaceful plant has been thrown in the same Schedule 1 category with full-on life-destroying substances like heroin and cocaine. But thankfully, a couple decades later came the hippie movement of the 1960s to 1970s. This is what lightly sparked the comeback for weed, cause unlike before, when the Zaza was mostly smoked by Mexican immigrants and black citizens who the US was massively racist against, the hippie movement had middle-class white American youths start blazing too. Which it was all about love, peace, spirituality, non-violence, and of course, every hippie's favorite, recreational drug use. Although most hippies were all about peace and love, that was quite easy to say when most of them were literally privileged enough to drop out of college, run off with Cassandra in a rainbow van, go on copious amounts of mindset-altering trips, mostly powered by LSD, and then return 10 years later to their parents and have them say,
It's okay, son. I was young and stupid once too.
Anyway, although the grass was still federally illegal, this didn't really do much, cause in 1976, 1 in 8 Americans over the age of 12 admitted to smoking it in the past 30 days. Hippies though were especially interested in cannabis, so much so they went on something called the Hippie Trail, which was basically an excursion by the youths of the world to go over to the Middle East and India, all while riding in magic buses and discovering new ways to get absolutely blasted, such as smoking the concentrated Zaza resin known as hash. But acquiring the Zaza would soon get much harder, because you see, most of it came from Mexico, so in 1969 the US started patrolling the border, and in 1975 they got even more aggressive and started spraying herbicide on Mexican wheat plants. And so good old supply and demand made grass prices skyrocket, which a lot of people started then growing the plant themselves in mini greenhouses, closets, bathtubs, storage units, basements, wherever they could. But then in 1982, Mr. Smarty Pants Ronald Reagan took it even a step further by encouraging the streamlined arrest of anyone in possession of an illegal substance, which was really dumb because most of the focus was on pot, all while crack, meth, and heroin were all still being transported and consumed on a regular basis. Even worse, this enforcement seemed to be racially motivated because despite plenty of traffickers and consumers being white, the majority of arrests were Latino and black youths, all while this bizarre over-focus on cannabis allowed the growing opioid epidemic to go unchecked. But thankfully, the US is slowly learning from their mistakes, where today 24 states have legalized the recreational use of marijuana. On top of that, the increased level of research on it has also found multiple medical use cases and can be prescribed to you by special doctors if seen fit. And although the Zaza is still federally illegal and a Schedule 1 drug, the overall perception of it has changed for the better, including in December 2022 when President Biden signed a bill to make it easier for researchers to obtain plants for their studies, which will hopefully accelerate the learning of positive and negative side effects of consuming the ZA even further. But all that aside, the overall vibe towards the loud has gotten a lot more accepting, and these days more and more people view the smoking of the grass not as you being a junkie, but the same way as having a couple beers with the homies on a Friday night and watching some WWE.
Zaza knowledge, Mary Jane truths, high IQ data that you've never heard before. But not to worry, because today we are uncovering facts about the magic green plant that everybody, for the sake of safety, education, and science, should know. Because I am always here to inform the public about the risks, cons, the good, the bad, and everything in between about the grass. And with that, you will have a better understanding of what the green plant really is and how it can affect you both positively and negatively. So if you are ready to sit back and learn about some wild facts in an educational way, like how the US government has a secret Zaza farm, or maybe, in case you ever find yourself chilling playing video games and one of your friends pulls up like, "Yo bro, I just got these fresh mangoes, they taste really good, wanna have some?" I don't know, I mean I already ate some banana. Okay, I get it. You're refusing the last grown mangoes of my dead grandma. Her last wish was that we may enjoy them together. Oh, I'll eat the damn mangoes if it'll show you up, man.
20 minutes later.
Damn, those mangoes really were good. Yup, and now for dessert. Your turn. Well, I do have work in 2 hours, but okay, what's a couple puffs from a J really gonna do? Oh my, why am I so faded? It's the mangoes, bro. They contain the same terpene myrcene that's in the J. That's why the Za hit you so fast and hard. This was always my plan. So, what we playing? I'm guessing you're calling in sick from work. From long-standing prophecies like eat a mango 30 minutes before lighting up to increase your fade, to the US government's secret farm, we have a lot of Zaza facts lined up that'll change your life.
Okay, well, maybe not that, but anyway, first up, grass bends your perception of time. Lettuce has this unique ability to bend time, not like interstellar or wormhole physics, more like your brain suddenly hired the most unreliable intern to keep track of the clock. Here's what's actually happening. THC binds to CB1 receptors in your brain, especially in areas like the cerebellum, basal ganglia, and prefrontal cortex. These regions don't just help with movement and decision making, they also play a key role in how we measure time internally. Normally, your brain has a nice steady rhythm for counting seconds and minutes, but when THC hijacks those receptors, that rhythm slows down. The result? Your perception of time stretches out. 10 minutes can feel like half an hour, a short song feels like a symphony, and waiting for the pizza delivery guy feels like you're aging in real time. You might check your phone, think hours have passed, only to find out it's been 4 minutes, and you've already rewatched the same TikTok 3 times. It's not that the outside world is moving slower, everyone else is still living in regular time. It's just that your brain stopwatch is now on stoner time, which is about as reliable as a 5 a.m. alarm when you could technically sleep till 7. Which we all love sleeping in until you finally wake up, check the clock, and realize half your day is already gone. Now you're rushing, stressing, and worst of all, you don't even have time to re-up at your favorite shop. Now, I'm personally convinced Zaza bends time both ways. Like, if you're just sitting there waiting for the pizza guy, time basically grinds to a halt. You ordered a cheesy crust double pepperoni masterpiece, haven't eaten in 6 hours. You timed the order perfectly so it would land just as you finished your J and tidied up. The plan was airtight. But now you're starving, high, fixated on that pizza like it's the holy grail. Then you check your phone and it says, estimated delivery 30 minutes? Bruh, it's already been 30 minutes. Man, I think I gotta call that's BS. On the flip side, light up during the day, boot up your favorite game, and suddenly time doesn't slow down at all. It disappears. You're laser focused on farming holy relics, stacking your DPS, grinding HP containers, and just as you finally drop the skeleton keeper for the last item, oh shit! I forgot I have a job! And that's the beauty of the Zaza. It can make time vanish when you need an escape from the grind or stretch it out so you can savor a moment. The trick is balance, because when you overdo it, that escape stops being a luxury and starts feeling like a requirement just to get through the day. But hey, I've ranted about that at least 37 times on this channel already, so let's instead move on to something you might have already known, just maybe not to the full extent, and that is, animals can get high too. People forget it's not just humans who can get high, animals can too. In fact, plenty of them actively seek it out. For example, cats with catnip. That's basically their version of top shelf Zaza. They roll in it, rub their faces in it, then proceed to sprint around the house like they just railed an energy drink. Dolphins have been passing around pufferfish to get a mild buzz off their toxins. That's literally aquatic hotboxing. And reindeer, they'll dig through snow to eat psychedelic mushrooms, then stumble around like it's day one of Burning Man. But here's the kicker, animals don't have the same relationship with THC that humans do. Our endocannabinoid system can process it in ways theirs can't. Dogs and cats, for example, are way more sensitive, so that funny idea of blowing smoke in your pug's face, not only is it cruel, it can actually be toxic. Your dog doesn't need to experience Snoop Dogg mode. Just saying. So yeah, animals can get high, sometimes even on purpose. The difference is, nature gave them their own party flavors. Humans just invited cannabis to the guest lists, which perfectly brings us to, unlike a lot of animals, humans are wired for weed. Now, here's the real twist. Animals can get high, but humans are actually wired for it, like built-in compatibility modes. See, cats have catnip, dolphins have their pufferfish, reindeer have their mushrooms, but humans? We've got something called the endocannabinoid system. It's a network of receptors scattered all over the brain and body. CB1, CB2, that regulate mood, appetite, memory, pain, sleep. Basically, all the things famous for messing with. And the wild part is, our bodies already make their own weed-like chemicals called endocannabinoids. Stuff like anandamida, nicknamed the bliss molecule, it's what gives you that runner's high or that weird wave of calm after eating chocolate. Cannabis just happens to produce compounds that fit those receptors like a skeleton key, especially THC, which plugs in and starts messing with the system. So while your dog might get wrecked from a tiny crumb of an edible, your body is running software straight out of the box. It's not that evolution designed us to spark a joint at 420, but it definitely gave us the hardware to handle it. Think of it like nature pre-installing YouTube on your phone. Cannabis just supplies that premium subscription. But, well, if you do get too high, it's good to know that CBD can actually counteract a too intense high. Yeah, the same plant that turned you into a human beanbag chair also comes with its own built-in antidote. CBD works kind of like the responsible older brother of THC. They both knock on the same brain receptors, but when CBD shows up, it basically says, "Oi, stop all this horsing around, you bloody wankers." Which, I don't know if CBD has a British accent, but you get the idea. So, if you're spiraling, heart racing, thoughts racing, convinced your Uber driver is secretly an undercover cop, a little CBD can take the edge off. And if you don't have CBD handy, there's the old school stoner life hack, black peppercorns. They're loaded with terpenes like beta-caryophyllene that can mellow out a THC overload. Just don't get too weird about it. Chewing pepper like you're auditioning for the Food Network isn't exactly a good look. Moral of the story, if cranks the volume too high, CBD is basically the remote control. You might not get back to completely sober, but at least you'll stop refreshing Google for, "Can you die from eating too many edibles?" And now for the really crazy one, and that is the fact that the US government actually has its own secret farm. Yeah, the same people who tell you is illegal at the federal level, they've been quietly growing it for decades. It's tucked away at the University of Mississippi, and it all started back in the 1960s when the feds decided they needed a steady supply of cannabis for official research. So while they were running Just Say No campaigns and blastering anti ads on TV, Uncle Sam was running his own grew-up in the background. Legal for them, illegal for you. Classic. Now, don't get it twisted, this isn't some premium frosty dispensary flower. By most reports, the government stash is tragic. We're talking dry, crumbly, brown flakes that look like oregano someone vacuum sealed in the Nixon era. Basically, if dispensary is 5-star dining, government is the gas station hot dog of cannabis. Technically still but you regret touching it immediately. And here's where it gets even crazier. Starting in 1978, the government actually mailed joints to patients through something called the Compassionate Investigational New Drug Program. A few dozen people with conditions like glaucoma and multiple sclerosis were legally prescribed cannabis, rolled up by the government and shipped in little tins. Each tin held about 300 pre-rolls, and patients got a fresh supply every month. Imagine opening your mailbox and finding a federally issued can of mid stamped "property of the US government." But the program shut down the new applicants in 1992 after the AIDS crisis led to a flood of requests. Today, only a handful of the original patients are still alive and technically still receiving tins from Mississippi. For everyone else, that subscription service is long gone. Still, it's kind of wild to think while regular people were being locked up for carrying a single joint, the feds were quietly tending their own plants in Mississippi and mailing out weed like Publishers Clearinghouse. Hypocrisy, science experiment, maybe both. Either way, next time someone says, "The government is hiding something," you can nod and say, "Yeah, man, it's weed." Every effect weed has on you and your brain explained. No need to dilly-dally here. Let's start with the most commonly reported effect and probably the reason half of you clicked this video. Creativity. It's Friday night, you just got home, grabbed some exotic lettuce, rolled a doobie, spark it up, and after the mandatory coughing session, something interesting happens. Your perception shifts, and it feels like your brain just opened the floodgates and let every thought through, whether it's brilliant, questionable, or something that absolutely should have stayed in the drafts. And this isn't magic, it's actually pretty simple. Your sober brain has a built-in filter. Its full-time job is to say things like, "This idea is stupid, that won't work, people will judge this. Stay on track, we're not doing that." THC weakens the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for judgment, self-criticism, and control. So instead of instantly killing ideas, your brain just lets them exist a little longer. And that matters because creativity is mostly about connecting unrelated ideas. THC increases communication between brain regions that don't normally talk to each other, which is why you suddenly start making connections that feel genius in the moment and occasionally still are the next day. Sober thinking is efficient and goal-oriented. High thinking is conceptual and abstract. That's also why drawing, music, and games can suddenly feel incredible while you're high, while things like spreadsheets and math feel borderline impossible. Your brain has basically switched modes. Instead of, "let's get this done as efficiently as possible," it's now on, "what even is a spreadsheet but a pile of ideas presented in the form of numbers. Which is great if you're making art, not so great if your boss needs an Excel file by Monday. But after about 15 to 30 minutes of entering the most creative and motivated flow state of the century, you'll probably start feeling something else. Laziness. Or more accurately, loss of motivation. Right after you come up with an idea so incredible yet so simple, it's genuinely confusing how no one has ever thought of it before. Naturally, you try to figure out how to bring this idea into fruition, and then that motivation fades. The confidence disappears, the urgency evaporates, and what you're left with is one overwhelming desire: to sit down, relax, turn on your favorite show, and consume entertainment like it's a full-time job. Simply put, this happens because of the grass's connection to your brain's dopamine, the chemical responsible for motivation, not pleasure. Dopamine isn't about enjoying things, it's about wanting to do things. It's the reason you start projects, chase goals, get up and actually execute the genius idea you just had. THC gives you a short dopamine spike at first, which is why you feel motivated, creative, and ready to conquer the world. But then it suppresses dopamine signaling, meaning your brain goes from, I should do something with this idea, to, or I could sit down and watch Stranger Things. Your brain basically decides the reward has already been collected, no effort required. From an evolutionary standpoint, THC has tricked your brain into thinking, mission accomplished, we're safe, no need to grind. After you've cozied up, your brilliant idea already forgotten unless you wrote it down, and entered a state where the TV is now doing the thinking for you, something else starts cooking. Your good old friend THC has one more gift. It activates receptors in the hypothalamus, the part of your brain that decides whether you're hungry, full, or I could eat again just to be sure. It increases a hunger hormone called ghrelin, which is why suddenly you're not just hungry, you're interested in food. At the same time, THC boosts dopamine release in response to eating. So once your brain has officially canceled productivity for the evening, it starts looking for the next easiest source of reward. And food is an instinctual, evolutionary pleasure, something humans have been hardwired to enjoy since the dawn of time. THC also enhances smell and taste, which is why the most average snack you own suddenly feels like a 5-star experience. From your brain's perspective, this is perfect. Work is done, frets are gone, energy storage sounds like a great idea. Which is why you could end up destroying your pantry like you're preparing for winter, despite having eaten like an hour ago. But some people don't even get the munchies, especially more experienced users. Tolerance changes things. However, there's one effect that's almost guaranteed. Introspection. Weed increases inward focused thinking by shifting attention away from the outside world and toward your internal thoughts. So instead of thinking about what's happening around you, your brain starts replaying past conversations, old decisions, relationships, that one thing you said 3 years ago that was maybe slightly awkward. THC reduces mental noise, which can make thoughts feel cleaner and more emotionally vivid. That's why introspection while high can feel insightful, therapeutic, borderline philosophical. You start connecting patterns in your own behavior, questioning habits, and occasionally coming to conclusions that feel like life-changing revelations. Sometimes they are, sometimes they absolutely are not. And this is where weed becomes a mirror. If you're in a good headspace, introspection can lead to self-understanding, emotional processing, creative or personal breakthroughs. But if you're already anxious or stressed, the same mechanism can spiral into overthinking. Because, well, when your brain turns inward with no distractions, it doesn't just analyze the good stuff. But now we're entering the inconsistent parts. The fix that change depending on the person, their tolerance, and the situation they're in. Everything up until now has been pretty run-of-the-mill. Effects you'll almost feel every time, at least a little. These next ones, not guaranteed. Starting with short-term memory loss. This one happens because THC intervenes with the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for forming and temporarily storing new memories. Your brain is still receiving information, you're still thinking, understanding, and reacting normally. It just becomes worse at encoding those moments into short-term memory. So you can follow a conversation, watch a movie, or have a deep thought, but the moment passes without being properly saved. That's why you'll often remember the vibe of what happened, but not the details. Long-term memory remains mostly unaffected. Your brain just forgets to press save on the last few minutes. Anxiety and paranoia. This effect mainly comes from THC increasing activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat and emotion processing center. THC heightens awareness of thoughts, sensations, and surroundings. At lower doses or in a comfortable setting, that can feel relaxing or grounding, but at higher doses or with low tolerance, the same heightened awareness turns inward. Normal bodily sensations get misinterpreted. A faster heart rate feels alarming, background noises feel significant, thoughts loop because the brain keeps flagging them as important. Nothing new is being created, your brain is just assigning too much meaning to normal signals. Time distortion. Time distortion happens because THC disrupts communication between the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia, which together help track time, predict outcomes, and sequence events. When this system is altered, your brain stops measuring time by progress or goals, instead it measures time by experience, which is why waiting feels longer, boredom stretches time, and engaging moments disappear quickly. This effect becomes much stronger when you're doing nothing because your brain has no external reference points to anchor time. Focus, hyperfocus, or distraction. THC reduces top-down control from the prefrontal cortex, which normally helps you manage attention and suppress distractions. For highly stimulating tasks, games, music, drawing, this narrowing of attention creates deep immersion. Everything else fades away. For boring, complex, or effort-heavy tasks though, that same narrowing becomes a problem. Your brain doesn't want to allocate effort unless the reward is immediate. Weed doesn't improve focus, it selects what you focus on. Social effects. THC lowers social self-consciousness by reducing activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that monitors behavior and self-presentation. What happens next though depends on personality. If you're naturally expressive, you may talk more and open up emotionally. If you're more introspective, you may become quieter and more observant. The filter is lowered, but THC doesn't decide what comes through it. Sleep effects. THC can make falling asleep easier. However, with frequent use, it suppresses REM sleep, the stage associated with dreaming and emotional processing. That's why regular users often report fewer dreams. When THC use stops though, REM sleep rebounds, which is why dreams suddenly return, often intensely. This is also why if you're smoking frequently, you might feel slightly tired all the time, like you could take a nap at any moment. Your body is essentially signaling, hey, we should probably actually rest for a bit. THC makes falling asleep easier, but with heavy or frequent use, it can interfere with sleep quality. The first high, a core memory, and whether you enjoyed it or not doesn't really matter, because for 95% of people, their first time literally shapes their entire opinion on the grass. Almost everybody who isn't age 50 or over and says, weed is the work of the devil, and should be more illegal than even meth. Well, actually it is. The ZA is Schedule 1 and meth is Schedule 2, so... Yeah, that's right. That's why I love America. Greatest damn country in the world.
USA! USA! USA!
Anyway, what I was saying was that most people who tweak their first time are put off by it for a while and shape into ZA haters, and people who have fun their first time, believe it or not, don't all become mindless junkies who eat Little Caesars and watch SpongeBob all day. Rather, when asked their opinion on weed, they'll probably just say,
My stomach turned into an endless void with an unquenchable hunger for anything edible, which was followed by a sleepiness so uncontrollable I passed out halfway into my 25th Twinkie. It was pretty fun.
So obviously me, CBD bro, who runs an entire YouTube channel dedicated to the green plant, must have had the latter experience, right? Well, not really. As you see, when I was but a wee lad, uncontaminated by the forbidden fruits of the world like alcohol, nicotine, and yes, weed, always believed that alcohol makes you homeless, nicotine makes you a little bitch, and weed makes you lazy. Thinking that, I didn't want to waste not just my first high, but my very first time feeling anything besides normal on eating Doritos and watching Family Guy. Which, after turning 17, I decided it was about time I lost my substance virginity and planned to do so on Christmas dinner, where I was gonna let El Marijuana put its big, fat, thick, juicy, delicately rolled J in my mouth, but only after I had eaten, as I believed if my tummy was full, I wouldn't get the munchies and could instead contemplate the meaning of life my time high. And thankfully, I had an older brother who was more than willing to give me a puff or two from his Christmas dinner J for $4, the fucking cheapskate. So we went upstairs and started puffing, which Rezex was instantly bamboozled from the magic grass. Nice, it's not a dud. Now it's my turn. I grabbed the J and puffed until I could puff no more. And the result was, I didn't feel a damn thing. Still had to pay the $4 though. Fucking bullshit. Anyway, as we went through the day, I got increasingly more jealous of my brother, who by his words was fried AF. I was beginning to think maybe I'm immune to getting high, which after telling my brother this theory, he concluded that I'm stupid and just didn't inhale the za in my lungs. And so generously told me to follow him upstairs where he gave me a couple more puffs. for an extra $4, the damn venture capitalist. As I was smoking away, keeping in mind to inhale it all the way down to my lungs, I still wasn't feeling anything, and my hopes of getting fried AF were beginning to look more like a distant dream. When I finished puffing, I sat down at the computer to look at some of those watch while high videos, and my brother asked me, "So, you feel anything now?" No, I don't. What's this weird? I'm not sure. I don't know. Seems to me you're fried like some Kentucky chicken, boy. I was indeed fried, and incredibly so. Although I didn't smoke a ton, my body had never experienced anything besides a sugar rush and maybe a caffeine kick. So as I was watching this watch while you're high video, I was laughing at everything and was tripping the fuck out. But not in a bad way, it was freaking amazing. Being high was what I always imagined it to be until... bloop. I'm sober again. Yeah, you heard right. My first high lasted like 30 seconds, and in an instant, I was back to normal, which I don't know why. Even to this day, when I tell people about this, nobody can relate because no one has experienced this phenomenon. But since I'm a scientist, I have developed a super duper concrete theory backed by quantum mechanics and the late great Stephen Hawking on my experience, and overall the reason why a lot of people who smoke their first time don't feel anything. I theorize that all humans have a natural block against foreign substances, a wall per se, and when an individual inhales ZA, the particles act kind of like micromissiles targeting your cannabinoid receptors. For the people whose defensive wall is strong enough, it will stop all perpetrators attempting to infiltrate your brain. But this wall isn't regeneratable, so if the micromissiles fail to get you fried at first, the next time they'll have an easier time against your already damaged wall of defense. Now, I bet you're thinking to yourself, this mofo been smoking too much of that Einstein pack. And to you, I say maybe, but also I have practical proof of this theory. I used to be a pro baller, and one day me and a couple hooper friends who all have great immune systems and therefore probably good ZA defensive walls decided to smoke up, and to my buddies, it was their first time. Once we lit the J and passed it around, I made sure to tell everybody to inhale the smoke in their lungs, which I'm pretty sure they all did, but still, I was the only one who got high, cause it wasn't my first time. But when I smoked up with some of my non-athlete first-timer friends, they all got high like normal. So, conclusion, defensive ZA wall is a real thing and I stand by my theory. Anyway, although that was my first time feeling high, I wouldn't call it my first high because it only lasted for half a minute. My first real high experience was something even more memorable and etched to my brain until I die. A couple weeks after the last incident, me and Rizx decided it was about damn time I actually felt the true loving touch of the Mary Jane. And this time, instead of having only scraps of ZA, we bought a whole gram to hopefully destroy my highly speculative ZA wall. I think it's real. Also, at this time, we were obsessed with freestyle rapping, so we decided the plan of action was to smoke up, eat candy, and rap battle to copyright-free beats while recording it so we could listen to our unreleased tracks in the morning. Since our parents were away for the night, we got the whole apartment to ourselves and planned on rolling 2 Js, both containing 0.5 Gs. Since we were petrified at the thought of getting caught blazing, instead of being sensible and smoking the J's near a window and just blowing the smoke out, we put our jackets on and walked 500 feet away from the apartment to light up, just to be sure that there wouldn't even be a microfiber of evidence that we were smoking the devil's lettuce. As we were consuming the J, all I could hope for was that this time I wouldn't just get a limited free trial, but the actual full version. But alas, when we finished puffing the J, I again felt nothing, or at least that's what I thought, cause as we arrived back home, I finally realized that, so you feeling it? Yeah, kinda. Sometimes the high hits you a couple minutes later, especially if you're going from outdoors to indoors as we did. And my highly accepted theory in the science community about this phenomenon is that through evolution, we have always considered indoors to be our safe zone and outdoors dangerous. Therefore, when you're outside, your brain doesn't allow the full faded and relaxed effect to take over, probably in anticipation of a roadman coming and chefing you up with the mandem. Okay, this one I'm not so confident in, and I have to come clean. I am in no shape or form associated with the science community. yet. Anyway, now that we were high and in the living room, we started putting on some beats and freestyling. And to this day, I have yet to replicate the skill and precision of my flow that high. It's hard to explain, but nowadays, I can't rap for shit. I mean, I'll spit one line and be like, yo, I've been getting money making racks, cause you know I'm flipping packs. That's facts. Yeah, that's it. Basically, I run out of rhymes pretty fast, but that day, I did not. In fact, even when my brain had nothing to say, my mouth rapped it for me. I turned into a freestyling robot and became dead sure that I was gonna make it out by dropping a mixtape and becoming a famous rapper. Until we listened to the recording in the morning and realized, yo, flowing on the go, your girl she a hoe, making money dancing with a pole, my girl making dough while doing lines of blow, cause we in the penthouse baby, living life, and that's for show. Yeah, I'll try YouTube instead. What's crazy though is that after that, I was never able to replicate the auto-rapping again, so my rap career never flowered.
Suck up.
Do you smoke? A question that has been asked frequently ever since the early 1900s, but unlike the early 1900s, where that question was mostly targeted towards cigarettes, these days, depending on your age and location of course, it probably means, do you enjoy sparking up a doozy at 8 p.m. to either watch Family Guy or ponder the meaning of life? No in between. Which, although smoking anything is harmful for us, I do believe we are moving in the right direction, aka the direction of less addictive cancerous chemicals. But don't get me wrong, Zaza is not good nor never will be good for your physical health. Although one can make the argument for mental health, only problem being 90% of that stems from, I feel like it helps, or I'm happier when I'm high, which in no way confronts the root of the problem, but rather serves as a temporary solution. But who am I to tell you if you're smoking too much weed, bruh? You have to figure that out yourself, because every situation is different. What I can and will do in this video though, is outline every level of cannabis consumption, how they may affect your health and life, and give you a better understanding of when and how a semi-unhealthy controlled hobby can turn into a straight-up addiction, to hopefully educate the public about the most important thing when it comes to anything in life: moderation. So let's start off with level 1. A casual. The casual is someone who smokes up only on occasions and almost exclusively with friends or family. At this level, you might be sparking up once or twice a month when a homie invites you over to hang out. And the reality is, you don't even really care about the weed part so much as the hang out part. You understand that smoking isn't good for you, but you also know the person you chill with likes to do so. And who are you to tell your friend how he or she should live his life? This is truly a wonderful level to be at, as being high is always eventful and joyful. Unless, you green out. Anyway, I think this is obvious, but at this stage, you don't have your own bud, bong, or really anything related to the za, as your homie always just hooks you up. Which, unfortunately, most of us don't have a friend like that, or used to, but have since leveled up to the point that they're the ones hooking the homies up. But we all know Frieza always hits better. It's just one of those things. Level 2, the weekend smoker. The weekend smoker is someone who has evolved from only getting high for the sake of being on the same wavelength as the homie to someone who has grown to enjoy the effects of marijuana even alone. But don't get me wrong, you are still aware that smoking is not healthy, but you also know eating Ruffles is not healthy, doom scrolling is not healthy, yet you still do them from time to time. Getting high has become something you look forward to, but since you're not smoking up every night, it's usually always accompanied with some activity you have in mind, aka I can't wait for Friday so I can smoke up and play Minecraft. I'm excited for Saturday so I can smoke up and watch Dragon Ball Super. Something like that. At this level, you're also definitely not smoking up frequently enough to start worrying about the financial implications buying weed comes with. At most, you're getting an eighth once a week and rolling a couple J's, or maybe if your friend was generous, he'll give you his old bong.
Protected with your life.
Personally, this is the level I have tried to stay at, but well, it's kinda hard because at this point you have your own weed, and if you're doing something fun at night, it kinda tempts you to do it, well, high. And once you give into that temptation, you'll move up to level 3. The daily reward. You've come to really enjoy your weekend highs, so much so that you've decided, screw it, it's Tuesday, there'll be no hangover like with alcohol. Yeah, I'ma smoke up. I would consider this level the last one where you can still say you are not addicted, just really enjoy hanging around while high. The only problem being, weed has become an integral part of your routine, which has removed some of the wonder that accompanied it in the previous levels. As before, being faded got you moving extremely irregular, but since irregular depends on your perspective of regular and you're pretty regularly high, your actions while under the influence, although still fun, don't make you feel that, oh shit. Where I'm going with this is that before the idea of doing your daytime activities while high seems scary, now they kind of seem like they might be a bit more fun instead. Also, you now know about strains, hybrid, indica, sativa. All these terms mean something to you. You might even have multiple strains at the crib, and depending on your nighttime mood and plan, you'll indulge in the one that suits you best. Whether you're looking to unwind after a long day or energize for a night out, there's a perfect strain to match every occasion. But don't get me wrong, you're still using the ZA as a sort of reward for a hard day's work to relax and chill, so you still have self-control, which, well, kinda starts fading on level 4. Gee, why not? Why not, you think? I ain't really got nothing much to do anyway, I'll just do a quick rip and make it more enjoyable. Getting high during the day can be a slippery slope, cause once you do, you'll realize that, wow, this is kind of fun. And so you might start dedicating your sativa stash to your daytime adventures, but there is a catch. A rather steep price you must pay when you reach this level. Because you are now high during the day, smoking up at night loses that reward factor it used to have. You're slowly getting to the point where the feeling of normality is being faded, and due to that, getting high at the end of your day is just standard procedure, not your special fun time, if you get what I'm saying. Another huge difference that comes at this level is of course your tolerance, which has gone way up along with your money spent on weed. And to counteract those, you have had to start buying in bulk. So instead of eighths, you now have ounces. But holding so much bud is a double-edged sword, as having over an ounce available at any given time also messes with your sense of how much you're actually smoking. Whereas one full bowl of bud taken from a grinded eighth visibly decreases the amount you have left, a full bowl taken from a grinded ounce seems like nothing. Which all of these things compound, kinda like the stock market. You're taking bigger and bigger hits each day, which most people would start to realize that at this point, it's kinda hard to label your Zaza destruction as a controlled hobby when you're not just high during your night goblin time, but also your daytime, and start lowering your consumption. But if you are not most people and still believe that you are in control, you'll move on to level 5. Zaza Fiend. A cigarette smoker can smoke a pack a day, which is not so good for your lungs. A Zaza Fiend can smoke 5 to 10 J's a day, which is also not so good for your lungs. Whereas before, you could point to that cigarette smoker and say, "You smoke the same amount in a day that I do in a month. We are not the same." Now you point at him and he points right back, which kinda sucks, not gonna lie. Being high has completely lost its wonder. It's more a monthly subscription to live your life normally and be in an alright mood now. You'll start to notice you got a bit of a cough. You got some stuck at the back of your throat pretty often, and you also can't remember what you did 2 days ago and beyond.
Oh no, I was high as balls.
You say jokingly, holding back your tears, because the reality is you weren't high as balls. You smoked a lot of weed, yes, but you weren't all that high, just normal high. Although you can't really get physically addicted to weed, you absolutely can mentally. I can quit at any time, you might think, and you could maybe, but oh boy, it will not be easy. Wanna play a game? Gotta get high. Wanna watch a movie? Gotta get high. Need to go to the store? Might as well get high. Everything is done high. Your lungs have not gotten a break to cleanse themselves, and your brain has not gotten a break either. In fact, it has gotten so used to being high, it feels pretty shitty without it. We could talk about your tolerance, but well, you probably know where that's at, on that maxed out endgame plus level. Personally, I've only ever gotten this far once, back when I was in high school and it was summer break, because I learned pretty quick that, well, it's by far the worst level to be at. You're smoking an insane amount, sometimes even back-to-back bong rips, but the feeling you get from it is not even that fun. On top of that, you're spending an unholy amount of money on bud. I mean, it's gotten so bad, your monthly Zaza costs might literally exceed your grocery budget. Got you setting aside half your paycheck just so you can feel okay. Might be time for a tea break, don't you think? All these levels are supposed to just give you a reference to where you're at, and the reality is you'll probably be bouncing around them, not stick to one forever. I usually try to keep my consumption on level 2 or 3, but that doesn't mean I don't dabble with the 4th level from time to time when, like, I don't know, a new Monster Hunter game comes out and I want to fully immerse myself in its world by getting an ounce of Zaza, locking myself in my gaming dungeon and going into goblin mode for a week. Just whatever you do, don't ever get to the last level. There's literally nothing positive about that place. Key takeaway, moderation is your best friend.
We all know navigating the wild world of strains is complicated. Like, yeah, some are supposed to be good. Everyone's heard of gelato, but what the hell is gelato? Why is it so special compared to some random generic sounding strain called Tropicana Regi? Well, long story short, it all comes down to these tiny chemical gremlins called terpenes. They're the little flavor goblins that set the tone of your za. And a good strain, that's basically when a specific mix of terpenes happens to hit in just the right way, and enough people collectively agree, yeah, this combo goes crazy, bro. As more and more people start studying the sacred art of the forbidden lettuce, they realize something. Not all grass hits the same. You start noticing patterns, like every time I smoke gelato, I'm chill, relaxed, maybe even a little poetic. But every time I smoke Dopa Loca Coca, I'm having fun until halfway through I start rethinking every decision I've ever made. Weird. And that's how it happens. One good experience, one consistent vibe, one damn, this gelato always hits right moment at a time. Boom. You just helped build gelato's rep in the strain world. But here's the problem that comes with clout. With it comes people trying to use it to their advantage. Because for every real gelato, there's 5 dudes out there trying to make a quick buck off its name. They'll use its hype against you, the innocent, curious, naive explorer who just wanted some premium za. You'll be looking at the menu, scrolling through the options, and there it is. Oh snap, gelato? I've heard a rapper mention that once. It's only 20 bucks an eighth? Of course, bruh. But the harsh truth, that's not gelato. That's the leftovers, the unsold mids, the bottom shelf bud that's been reborn through the sacred art of false labeling. They slap a shiny gelato name on it and suddenly it's flying off the shelves faster than a too good to be true Black Friday deal. But here's the good news. Fake gelato doesn't always mean bad za. Most of the time it's still decent, maybe even good. It's just inconsistent. One batch might have you chilling like a monk in a candlelit spa, and the next might have you cleaning your kitchen at 3 a.m. questioning your childhood. It's not that the grass is bad, it's just that the strain name doesn't mean much anymore. You're not buying gelato, you're buying a dude's interpretation of gelato. And that's why knowing your terpenes, genetics, and real cultivars actually matters, so you can tell the difference between hype buds and real deal legacy strains that hit the same every time. So, for the sake of science, education, and dare I even say the furtherment of mankind, I present to you the ultimate guide to strains. We're breaking down what's actually out there, from the real budget strains that stay consistent and won't break the bank, to the mid-tier Zaza for when you want to splurge a bit. Maybe it's a special occasion, you just hit level 50 on Borderlands 4 and you're looking for that reliable to even semi-exotic high. And finally, the premium exotics that make you stare at the price tag like, who in their right mind would spend 120 bucks on an eighth? Well, not people in their right mind, but the ones chasing that, I gotta try it once to see if the hype is real. And yeah, some of those strains are genuinely worth it, but the real reason to know them isn't to flex, it's to make sure you don't get bamboozled by the hype. Let's start from the bottom, but respectfully. Because budget strains aren't bad grass, they're the OGs that built the foundation of modern Zaza. They've been around so long and grown so much that even mid-level growers can make them shine. These are the mass-cultivated, well-understood classics, simple genetics, easy to grow and reliable no matter who's behind the grow line. Basically, they're cheap because everyone knows how to do them right. The humble, honest, budget za. These are the people strains, the ones that don't need holographic packaging or rapper cosigns. They're affordable because they've been around forever. The genetics are stable
stable and growers have them down to a science. Blue Dream is the perfect example. Born in California in the early 2000s, a child of blueberry and haze, it became the blueprint for good bud that doesn't ruin your day. It's balanced, euphoric, and clear-headed. Growers love it because it yields like crazy and barely dies no matter what you do to it. That's why even when it's cheap, it still hits smooth and familiar, a strain that's too reliable to ever really go out of style. Then there's Northern Lights, basically the granddad of all chill strains. It first popped up in the Pacific Northwest in the 80s before the Dutch perfected it in Amsterdam. Fast-growing, pest-proof, and built for mass indoor farms, it's been industrially cultivated for decades, which is why it's still affordable, but almost always legit. If the magic spice had a bedtime story, it'd be Northern Lights tucking you in. Super Lemon Haze adds some zest to the mix, a citrus-forward legend. It's what happens when Lemon Skunk and Super Silver Haze have a love child that smells like optimism. It's bright, energetic, and dependable, the kind of Satovia you can find almost anywhere without gambling on quality. Now as we climb the Zaza ladder, we reach that middle ground, the zone of responsible indulgence. These are the strains you grab when you've got a little extra cash and want something that actually tastes as good as it feels. They're pricier but not ridiculous because they come from more curated genetics, smaller batches, and growers who actually care about flavor. Gelato 33 sits right at the top of this tier. Born from Sunset Sherbet and Thin Mint GSC, it's the one that started the modern luxury grass movement. Creamy, fruity, perfectly balanced, chill but still productive. When you get the real thing, it smells like dessert and gasoline had a baby. If it doesn't, it's probably just another imposter. Then there's Wedding Cake. Despite the name, it doesn't taste like frosting. It's more earthy vanilla and soft calm. Bred from Triangle Kush and Animal Mints. It's a perfect end of the day but not end of consciousness strain. It's for people who want to feel cozy but not comatose. And then there's Mimosa, the brunch strain, a cross between clementine and purple punch. It's bright, citrusy, and sociable, like orange juice with a personality disorder. It's functional enough for daytime high, yet fun enough to make folding laundry feel like a side quest. But now we step into sacred ground, the true exotics. These are the strains you save for birthdays, paydays, or whenever you just want to flex on your past self. They're expensive, yes, but they're also the reason modern za culture even exists, because these strains didn't just get famous, they changed the game, son. RS11 or Rainbow Sherbet 11 is where flavor became science. It introduced the whole terps over tea philosophy, fruity, creamy, and absurdly smooth. It's one of the few hype strains that's actually worth the hype, technically. The real cuts are so tightly controlled that fake RS11 almost always outsells the genuine article, because the real one never stays on shelves. Then there's Skittles, the original candy strain. If it smells like a fruit aisle in heaven, you found the real thing. If it smells like lawn clippings, congratulations, you've just been scanned by a marketing major. And finally, Lemon Cherry Gelato, the modern hype king. Every plug claims to have it, most don't. The authentic version bred by Backpack Boys and 5 Points hits with a perfect mix of sweetness, cream, and citrus. Uplifting, euphoric, but without the anxiety spikes. It's potent but balanced. Indulgent but smooth. See it for under $50? That's not a deal. That's mid in designer cosplay. And there you have it, your foundational strain knowledge unlocked. You now know which names actually mean something, which ones are safe bets for each budget, and how to spot a clout chaser holding a mislabeled eighth of Skittles like it's the holy grail. Say $90. Smoke weed every day. To some, this is their mantra, and to others, it is just something they said in 4th grade to sound cool, along with, of course, bitch getting money. But did you know, smoking weed isn't just some 21st century trend where after COVID everyone just realized, man, this sucks. Yo, did you hear? The lockdown is ending next week. We finally get to leave our rooms. Man, this sucks. No. People have been getting high off that homegrown natural supply for decades, centuries, dare I say millennia. And over these countless years, a lot of the people who shaped our history also shaped finely ground botanical matter tightly packed within a thin, often translucent paper forming a perfect tube. AKA a joint. I'm saying they smoked weed, okay? Anyway, some of these people we can confirm to have consumed the Lord's loud, and the others we, well, unfortunately just have suggesting evidence for. And one will be complete speculation by me, which, try and guess which one of them is which, I'll also tell you at the end of the video. First up, William Shakespeare. The idea that William Shakespeare may have smoked cannabis stems from findings in the early 2000s where scientists discovered pipe fragments in Shakespeare's garden. These pipes contain traces of cannabis, among other substances. While there is no direct evidence that Shakespeare himself used cannabis, the presence of these compounds has led to speculation about whether he might have experimented with that top-shelf Zaza. This theory is further fueled by some interpretations of his writings, such as in Sonnet 76, where he mentions invention in a noted weed, which some suggest could be a subtle nod to using weed as a source of creative inspiration. However, these are only speculations, and there's no conclusive evidence to confirm them. Me, however, have no doubt in my mind that that man at least once in his lifetime got faded than a hoe. I mean, they found signs of cannabis among other substances, suggesting to me that one of Shakespeare's friends like Thomas Green or James Burbage once brought Shakespeare some weed not knowing what it was, and after getting high, Shakespeare was all like, to be or not to be, got rich and famous, and then went his entire life trying to find more weed, hence the other substances found in that pipe. But hey, that's just a theory, a high theory. But now, let's talk about Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria might not be the first person you'd imagine puffing on a joint, but history has its surprises. Back in the Victorian era, our dear Queen was quite the savant when it came to pain management. Prescribed cannabis by her royal physician, Sir J. Russell Reynolds, Victoria reportedly used it to relieve menstrual cramps. This makes her one of the earliest known VIPs of the Medical Marijuana Club, proving even monarchs need a little herbal relief now and then. No word on whether it made court affairs more amusing, but one could certainly hope. Although this one is proven to be true, unlike Shakespeare, it isn't quite as, well, entertaining is the right word, I guess, as there really is no proof that she ever smoked that OG, just put a few drops under her tongue. Did she ever have the munchies? Did she ever get intentionally high before, let's say, a play to make it more enjoyable? I guess we'll never know. One can only ponder about the royal rotation. George Washington. Ah, the $1 bill. America's first president and perhaps its first agricultural innovator in the realm of hemp. In his days, tending to the vast fields of Mount Vernon, Washington got quite savvy with his crops, particularly hemp, which was used primarily for industrial purposes like making ropes and fabrics. But here's a little historical nugget. Washington wrote about separating male from female hemp plants. Now, to the untrained eye, this might just seem like good old farming, but those in the know might wink at the idea that George was onto something more recreational. I mean, why else fuss over female plants known for their higher THC content? Well, there's no smoking gun, or smoking pipe as it were, to prove he partook himself. It does raise eyebrows, and maybe even a few smiles at the thought of the father of his country partaking in a bit of the herb. Of course, there are some other reasons why George could have wanted to separate female plants from male ones, but I just can't imagine being so into weed farming and not even once being curious enough to smoke it. Can you? Probably not. So conclusion, I think he smoked. You think he smoked? He smoked. Herodotus. Often dubbed the father of history, he had quite the knack for detailing the quirky habits of ancient cultures. In his tales, he mentions the Scythians, a group that really knew how to throw a smoky party. They weren't just tossing burgers on the grill, but were burning cannabis seeds to whip up a bathhouse-style smoke fest. Imagine this, ancient warriors chilling in felt tents, getting secondhand highs from hotboxing with hemp. Which leads us to Alexander the Great. Some cultures around his empire used cannabis, such as the Scythians, who, as I mentioned earlier, Herodotus noted used it in steam baths. However, there are no records or indications that Alexander himself used cannabis. His conquest did bring him into contact with many different peoples and cultures, so it's likely he was aware of various herbal practices. However, connecting him directly to cannabis use is, well, fight on! Light on. Unlikely. Louis Armstrong. The jazz virtuoso with a trumpet and a grin as wide as the Mississippi had a special relationship with gauge, his preferred term for marijuana. Armstrong wasn't just casual about his cannabis. He considered it essential to his music and well-being. He famously said that it made him feel good, didn't make him mad, and that he couldn't forget it even if he tried. So integral was marijuana to his routine that he wrote to President Eisenhower advocating for its legalization. We always looked at pot as a sort of medicine, a cheap drunk, and with much better thoughts than one that's full of liquor. Wise words if I do say so myself. For Armstrong, weed was a part of the jazz lifestyle, keeping him cool in the face of the era's hot prejudices and even hotter jazz clubs. Carl Sagan. The cosmos' personal tour guide was not only fascinated by the stars, but also by the starry effects of marijuana. Under the nom de plume, Mr. X, aka Sagan, extolled the virtues of weed in an essay that spoke of it as both a source of profound philosophical insights and a simple pleasure. He argued that cannabis had a remarkable power to enhance curiosity, appreciation for art, and sensory experiences, essentially deepening the user's connection to the universe. His private use of cannabis was a tool for scientific meditation and personal enlightenment, a kind of mental spacecraft exploring the uncharted territories of the human mind, all while maintaining a vigorous career in astrophysics. What a G! His appreciation for weed was not just about enjoyment, but also an intellectual pursuit, adding a layer of contemplation to his stargazing. This one is one of my favorites because it really just proves that weed doesn't make a hardworking person lazy, it makes a lazy person lazier. And in the case of Mr. X, no, not you Elon Musk, Carl, it's awesome to see an advocate for weed that isn't a rapper or a retired athlete, but an esteemed astrophysicist. No, not you either, Neil deGrasse Tyson, we all know how smart you are. Final person on our list, and the most prominent in Zaza use. Everything he described makes sense to me, as although I'm not hippie enough to say my Zaza destruction is due to me wanting to deepen my connection to the universe, I do however prefer to play No Man's Sky high as ball. Do you remember 2018/19 when kids were puffing Juuls like they were the new and improved oxygen? Then around the same time we had mofos slinging black market boof, carts, and dispos, which led to thousands of people hospitalized and tens dead. Basically, the Juuls screwed kids long term, trying their best to get the new generation addicted to Nick, and the black market boof dispos were out here stacking kills short term like the match was about to end and they were one off the nuclear. What a crazy time to be alive. Thank God they regulated that stuff now, and it's starting again. Yeah, so I don't know if it's just me, but I've been seeing a bunch of videos about stuff like the shroom vape, the DMT cart, a freaking opioid vape. Although this stuff isn't a widespread pandemic yet, it's still crazy to see how far some people will go to make a couple bucks. Like, bro, just sell grass. Anyway, today we're gonna go over the absolute most stupid and dangerous vapes that are being flinged online, on the streets, or even smoke shops, so you can watch out for them and hopefully tell the dude selling them to stop it and get some help. As an extra disclaimer, do not under any circumstances ever try these. They are unregulated as fuck, and I bet most of them are tested by a toddler with a chemistry kit, if at all. This video is purely educational and is here to serve you as an informative warning, so if you ever spot these horrid creations, you can run away as fast as possible, which especially applies for the last one on the list. Anyway, first up, the mushroom vape. I, along with over 1 million people, learned about the shroom vape from a scientist called Goblin, who made a video about it where he even tested it and analyzed the lab test results, where the conclusion was that it's filled with a bunch of random substances and definitely not a mushroom vape. That's because the active compound in mushrooms, psilocybin, that makes you high, literally cannot be consumed from a vape, as psilocybin breaks down when heated. So what exactly are you smoking when using the shroom vape? Well, who knows? It should be 4-ASO DMT, a lab-made cousin of shrooms, which turns into psilocin in your body, or something entirely different. Could be DMT, could be sadness in liquid form, you just don't know, and the creators of the thing are probably as clueless as the consumer. And although when Goblin tried it, he didn't feel anything besides a minor head rush, you might not be as lucky. Because of how ratchet these things are, I can't rule out the possibility that you might smoke it once, feel nothing, then pass it to your friend who takes one puff and gets psychosis for a month. We just don't know, which is why I made this list. You're basically trusting some rinky-dinky home chemist with something as complicated as your brain's chemistry. Absolute best case, you get something similar to a mushroom trip. Likely case, you feel nothing, and worst case, you're brain dead. So if you ever see a shroom vape in your local smoke shop, make sure you ask the clerk what's in it, and if he says mushrooms, you know he is a liar and kind of a scumbag. Find a new spot. Next one is probably the least dangerous one on the list, like long term, but short term, it's a bit too convenient for what it does, and oh boy, it does a lot. It is the DMT vape. Why I say this one is the least dangerous is that unlike the shroom vape, which literally just cannot exist because psilocybin isn't smokable, DMT is, so at least you're getting what is advertised. Well, actually, considering to get your hands on this, you either need to buy from a plug or a sketchy smoke shop, it could also just be fent. Anyway, why I still believe this is dangerous is that coming from someone who has tried DMT, although not like physically addictive, that shit leaves you staggered like a freaking flashbang, bro. And having something like that ready to smoke 24/7 in the palm of of your hand looking like a USB stick, I just don't see that ending well for the majority of people. Like, bro, I've done my share of psychedelics, but DMT is like a portal to another universe. I mean, if you really puff that stuff, you're out of it. Dunsies, bozo. And the thing with having it in a dispo is that they tend to be inconsistent. Like, you can do one puff, feel nothing, do one more, and you're on the moon discussing philosophy with Rocky Balboa. Also, just think about this. Ancient shamans spent days fasting to meet the cosmic machine elves. You met them while sitting on your toilet scrolling TikTok. Kinda defeats the whole purpose of the stuff if you ask me. But well, if you're getting it from a trusted source, at least you can comfort in the fact that you're not smoking some Breaking Bad science experiment like with the shroom vape. Anyway, there's still 2 insane and dangerous vapes left, and they're gonna get really messed up from here, bro. So get ready to be baffled at the dark side of capitalism with the ketamine vape, or K-Pods. Don't get K-Pods mixed up with K-Pop. One is a schedule-free anesthetic abused by many to feel numb, detached, and probably listen to some weird-ass music. And K-Pop, well, you know what K-Pop is. Anyway, I don't think I have to explain to you why having a ketamine vape is not a good thing, as most people, including myself, are instantly put off by a drug that's main way of digestion is snorting it into your nose, which, unless you live in Wall Street, is the first sign of becoming a drug fiend. But with the invention of the K-Pod, or ketamine vape, we have made the barrier of entry much easier. I know my dumb teen self would have maybe even considered trying this stuff if I knew I could just inhale it from a vape. Which is all the reason I need to put it on the list. Like, what's next? The crack pen? The Molly cart? The heroin juice? Probably shouldn't have said that. I'm already imagining the seller of one of these things having this notebook out like, he said crack pen? Interesting. Hey John, any loophole we can use to sell crack on Amazon? And well, I guess I'll just quickly go over the side effects of ketamine abuse, which the most famous one is obviously K-bladder. This is still 100% a thing, vape or not. Ketamine is ketamine. Vaping doesn't save your bladder from chronic exposure. Long-term heavy use can cause constant need to pee, pain, bleeding, bladder shrinkage, requiring surgery in severe cases, cognitive damage, memory issues, attention problems, disassociation leakage, feeling floaty even when sober, and more. Overall, I'd say the K-Vape is a disgrace to humanity and the wonderful people who created the technology that make this stuff possible, because they probably didn't intend for the next generation to fling something called K-Pods. But now for the final vape that, unlike the previous ones, is actually pretty widespread and, in my opinion, the most dangerous. The opioid vape, or 7-0. This is what happens when someone looks at kratom, which is already addictive on its own, and thinks, what if I removed all the plant matter, concentrated only the part that matters, and then made it vapable? Congratulations, that's 7-hydromytoxy-trick. 7-0, the main active opioid metabolite of kratom, and the real punch behind kratom's mild tea facade. And unlike the shroom vape, which the scientist Goblin tried to basically no effect, after smoking the 7-0 vape, he almost instantly felt his body get heavy and his mind get foggy. He compared his free puffs to taking half a Xan, which is pretty insane considering there is a lot more than free puffs in those things. The case that the company selling this stuff try to make is, oh well, it helps recovering opioid addicts, which okay, fair, but then they go right ahead and market the stuff as the new Quaaludes or party pills, which I forgot to mention, they're also sold in pill form. Never do they mention the fact that 7-0 binds up to 13 times stronger to your brain's opioid receptors than morphine, which in fact makes it way stronger. The worst part is smoke shops are making bank with these products, and do you think it's from recovering opioid addicts? Hell no. For kratom, which is like the natural opioid, I can see how you'd make a case for it as a recovery drug, but 7-0, although marketed as natural, is found in very small amounts in kratom, and then they use a chemical reaction to synthesize more of it, with the end result being a quote-unquote natural opioid up to 13 times stronger than morphine. Sounds legal, right? For real though, how this stuff is legal and sold in smoke shops, I do not know. One thing I do know is that the people who sell this stuff are scumbags and stay the hell away from it at all costs, because it's one of those things that you can try once and get hooked instantly, and the withdrawal symptoms are so bad people have needed medical help to get off the stuff. So yeah, if I had a magic wand imbued with the power of the Supreme Court and Congress, and I could only wave it once, I'd ban 7-0, as from what I understand, this is by far the most widespread substance on this list, and also the most dangerous. Drugs. Something America has been fighting against for over a century, yet this endeavor hasn't been very fruitful. Basically, imagine the ocean as all the drugs in the US, and they have thousands of people with buckets slowly emptying it out. But the problem is, on the other side of the ocean, there's dudes like Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria who have direct pipelines feeding in endless amounts of pure Colombian cocaina. But you know, Pablo was the GOAT narco. Surely after defeating the Medellin cartel, things would get... Oh, well, fuck. Basically, because the US is by far the biggest market in the world, there will always be tons of entrepreneurs, mostly South American, who want to invest. And because starting a tech company with only 100 pesos and a 2-cylinder motorbike is pretty hard, why not settle for the next best thing? Drugs. From the opium crisis of the late 19th century to the current fentanyl one, we are going to look at every drug epidemic in US history and hopefully by the end of it, learn why the fuck does this keep happening. So let's start it off with the first one. The opium epidemic of the late 19th century. Welcome to the late 1800s, where opium is basically America's favorite snack. Got a headache? Opium. Can't sleep? Opium. You're feeling a little bit down? Yup, opium. Doctors were out here handing them out like strip club invites on the Las Vegas Strip, especially in the form of laudanum, a fancy mix of opium and alcohol. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Hey, yo, doc, you think I could get a quick refill on that prescription laudanum? You know, that good shit. Sorry, John, we're all out. But here, take this Jack Daniels and powdered opium. Just smack a hit from the pipe and wash it down with the Jack, if you know what I mean. That should get you back on track. Rehab. Oh geez, thanks, doc. Now excuse me as I go get fucked up on my medicine and partake in my favorite 19th century pastime, beating my wife. Godspeed, John. But then the Chinese immigrants arrived, working hard and bringing along the practice of smoking opium in dens. These dens were kind of like the Starbucks of the day, except instead of coffee, they served up a bowl of relaxing opium. Naturally, this made some folks nervous, cause nothing says panic like a little cultural exchange mixed with drugs. Then came the moral outrage, which wasn't just about the opium, but also had a hefty dose of racism. Suddenly people decided opium was bad news, especially when it involved Chinese immigrants. So San Francisco passed a law in 1875 targeting these opium dens, effectively saying no more public opium fun for anybody. By 1914, the US government got serious with the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act, making it way harder to get opium without a lot of paperwork. And just like that, the first US drug epidemic started to fade, leaving behind a legacy of questionable drug policies and a whole lot of finger pointing. So what did we learn, or rather should have learned? Well, maybe that it's a bad idea to get the entire country hooked on a substance before figuring out how addictive it is, and that blaming everything on immigrants never really solves the problem, but alas, this lesson was forgotten pretty fast. Now let's jump to the second multi-drug epidemic, which was the heroin, speed, and barbiturates crisis of the mid-20th century. Did you know heroin wasn't always the notorious bad guy we know today? In fact, it started as a miracle drug that was supposed to cure people of their morphine addictions, which I think you're probably starting to see a bit of a pattern here with the US being overly confident in their medical knowledge and getting people hooked on hardcore drugs. Tom, what are you doing with that morphine? Oh, well, I've had this headache since the morning. Well, good luck with that. Morphine is like super addictive, bro. What's that? Oh, this is just heroin. It's like way better than morphine, like way better. Heroin is in fact better than morphine, specifically 2 to 3 times strong, better. Anyway, doctors back then really did think they'd hit the jackpot. Got a cough? Here's heroin the hero. Feeling a little down? Heroin's got your back. But instead of curing addictions, it just traded one addiction for another, stronger one. And people got hooked faster than you can say Chains FR clone. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s, and heroin was like that super obnoxious drunk guy who refused to leave the function. It spread like wildfire, especially in cities. You had everyone from jazz musicians to war veterans getting tangled up in heroin's sticky web. It was cheap, it was potent, and it was everywhere. And then came the crime. As you might guess, a bunch of people addicted to opioids isn't exactly a recipe for peace and harmony. Crime rates soared and cities became battlegrounds, with heroin at the center of it all. The government's solution? A big shiny war on drugs, which mostly involved cracking down on users and dealers with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Instead of helping addicts, they threw them in jail, which was about as effective as smoking indica to boost productivity. Around the same time, there were actually 2 other drugs that were causing havoc as well: barbiturates and amphetamine, aka speed. On one hand, you had amphetamines, or you might know it by its street name, speed. No, not that speed. that speed, yeah. But why was it called speed? Well, cause one dose of these Chaos Emeralds could get you tweaking around like Sonic. These little fuckers were like rocket fuel. Feeling tired? Pop an amphetamine. Need to lose weight? Amphetamines to the rescue. Trying to stay awake for 3 days straight to grind the new Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and become an omni-movement god before anyone else? Yup, you guessed it, amphetamines. But after all that speeding around, people needed to come down, and that's where barbiturates came in. These were the downers that help you sleep, relax, or just stop vibrating like a jackhammer. Doctors handed out like candy, thinking they were the perfect solution for everything from anxiety to insomnia. The result? A whole lot of people bouncing between being wide awake and dead asleep, often with a little too much of both. People started getting seriously hooked on this cocktail of uppers and downers, and it turns out when you mix the two, it's a recipe for disaster, like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. Overdoses skyrocketed, and suddenly, the party didn't seem so fun anymore. It was shortly after Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland died from a barbiturate overdose, the government finally decided to step in, cracking down on these pills and making them harder to get. And just like that, America had to find other ways to stay awake or chill out. But now we are arriving to the more well-known controversial epidemics, first of which is the famous crack cocaine epidemic 1980s to 1990s. Crack was like cocaine's cheaper, faster little brother. It was easy to make, easy to get, and way too easy to get hooked on. Think of it as the fast food of drugs. Cheap, quick, and leaving you with serious regrets. Crack hit poor urban neighborhoods the hardest, spreading like crazy. Suddenly, everyone and their mama could afford to get high, and before you knew it, communities were being torn apart by addiction and crime. The government's solution? War on drugs, Infinity War. Okay, that's not what they called it, but I mean, it was technically a sequel to the original War on Drugs. But unlike the Avengers who went after the big bad guy behind the chaos, it mostly involved locking up minorities, even if they were caught with even a teeny bit of crack. It was like a cruel game of gotcha, where basically everyone lost. Crack is also one of those drugs that if you do it once, it changes the biochemistry of your brain. The euphoria you feel from smoking that shit goes way beyond what the brain can produce itself. So once you get that feeling, your brain will start equating true happiness with smoking crack. That's why even people who are able to quit will most likely never be the same again. If you ask Dave Chappelle, the whole thing was a tragic, darkly ironic mess. He pointed out that when crack hit black communities, the government's response was all about punishment, not help. Fast forward a couple of decades, and when opioids started affecting white communities, suddenly everyone's talking about treatment and compassion. As Chappelle famously joked, it's funny how the tune changes depending on who's affected. The crack epidemic wasn't just a drug crisis, it was a stark lesson on how race and class can influence government response. And while crack might have faded from the headlines, the impact of those years is still being felt today. But before we can get to the current opioid and fentanyl epidemic, we have to quickly skim over the drug best known from a bald cancer patient with a chemistry degree. The meth epidemic, 1990s to present. If you thought Red Bull gives you wings, meth gives you freaking rocket boosters. It's cheap, it's easy to make, and it turns you into a jittery paranoid tweaker real fast. Meth, like everything else in this video, spread like wildfire, especially in rural areas where it became the go-to solution for anyone needing to stay up for days or just looking for a fun time. Before long, meth mouth and tweakers became common sights, and communities were left dealing with the fallout. The government's response cracked down on the ingredients. Suddenly, buying cold medicine felt like trying to smuggle pure Colombian. But despite the regulations, meth didn't go away, it just got sneakier. Hello? Hello, Doc. Yeah, funny story. Basically, everyone in my community, family, and all my friends and shit, you know, they got a nasty cold, so, you know, I'm gonna need, like, all your cold medicine, like every last bit, bruh. Sorry, you don't look very sick to me. Trust me, doctor. I'm a sick man. Now give me your fucking cold medicine or I'm gonna burn this freaking place down. Around the same time, there was also the prescription opioid epidemic, but the story there is basically the exact same as the opium one. Only difference being that this time it wasn't technically the government's fault, it was big pharmaceutical companies who convinced doctors that opioids had no side effects and could be prescribed out like Tic Tacs. Spoiler alert, these were some of the most addictive drugs in the universe, and comparable to Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, but you know, only like 1 or 2 stones. Now though, we're gonna talk about what happens when opioid Thanos gets all 6 Infinity Stones. The fentanyl epidemic, 2010s to present. Now we're in the 2010s, and if the prescription opioid epidemic was Infinity War, then fentanyl is Endgame. Fentanyl is super potent, like 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. A tiny amount can knock you out, and by knock you out, I mean send you to the gulag where you either clutch it or it's game over, bruh. The scary part, fentanyl is showing up everywhere, often mixed with other drugs like heroin or even cocaine, usually without the user's knowledge. Suddenly, what might have been a manageable if still bad habit has become a deadly gamble. One wrong hit and you're dead. The government has scrambled to respond, focusing on harm reduction, distributing naloxone, an overdose reversal drug, and setting up safe spaces for users. But fentanyl keeps spreading, turning every drug purchase into a potentially fatal decision. The practice of meeting a stranger at the club and bonding over some pure Colombian is really dying out, man. All jokes aside, if the devil is real, then fentanyl is 100% his doing. Out of all the legit hardcore drugs talked about in this video, this makes them seem like some indigo weed. Whoever sells fentanyl knowingly should be judged not as a drug dealer, but as a murderer with intent to kill. I'm grasping at straws here, but the only good thing that might come out of this is awareness about the dangers of drugs. And although teenagers are stupid, I'd hope that this crisis might push away would-be first-time drug users, as the chance of literally dying from doing anything is so likely these days, you might as well be playing Russian roulette. And now you have the full overview of American drug epidemics. What did we learn? Well, we might have learned a lot, and I don't know about the government though. Hopefully, I guess. Anyway, stay safe, and if you want to support me and the channel whilst getting some fire za, make sure you check out notcbdbro.com. Link for that will be in the description and pinned comments. See ya. Nicotine, the only highly addictive substance besides alcohol and caffeine that the world government is cool with. And although nowadays we know smoking/vaping literally kills you, we still let it slide because, well, money. But nicotine addiction isn't as obvious as, I don't know, crack addiction for example. So how exactly do you determine if you have a problem? And if so, how serious should you take it? Well, the easiest way to tell if you're addicted is obviously if you own your own vape, or just the nicotine is in your everyday routine, meaning you wake up, eat breakfast, vape, go to work, vape, drive home, vape. But if you fall into this category, you probably already know you're addicted, but el nicotino doesn't always make it so obvious. From my experience, I've found that it low-key has a mind of its own, and when it enters your system, it instantly starts rizzing up your brain, firstly giving you the buzz, and after that, it'll curl up all close to you and 15 minutes later whisper, "Hey, that buzz was pretty nice, right? You should buy a vape." And depending on your mental fortitude, you either do what it says instantly or you fight it. But the more you consume Nick, the stronger and smarter that little voice will get. Cause it'll start analyzing your brain and giving you suggestions based on where you last got that buzz. So if you go to a party and at that party do some vaping, next time when you're invited, the little voice will tell you, "Ooh, a party. That's the place where we get to vape without feeling bad about it. Cause I mean, everybody's doing it anyway." And from there, you'll become what I call a social vapor, which is someone who only does it at gatherings, parties, get-togethers, etc. by just asking for others to pass their vape. But being a social vapor doesn't mean you're addicted, unless you find yourself going to these gatherings for the sole purpose of getting that sweet, sweet buzz. We've determined that being a social vapor doesn't instantly make you addicted, so what does then? Well, probably when you get to the point where instead of hoping that someone has a Nick stick in the group, you don't risk it and buy your own to take with you. This might seem innocent enough at first, but ask anybody who is a Nick fiend and they'll tell you that you start being addicted when you buy your own vape, even if it is just for that one night out. Yet most people don't realize this at first, because as I said before, nicotine is one smooth-ass criminal. It is a master of deceiving its victims with lies like, "You're not addicted, it's just one vape. You're not addicted. Look at Johnny, he's puffing an F-bar 24/7. Now that's addicted." Worst part is, most dudes only realize they're being deceived when it's too late. Well, not too late, it's never too late to quit, but when you're on that physical addiction pack, it's gonna be way harder compared to if you're only mentally addicted. And if you don't know the difference between mental and physical addiction, then don't worry, it's quite simple. Physical addiction is when your body starts dysfunctioning due to the absence of the substance, aka nicotine, it's used to getting daily, which basically means headaches, vomiting, dizziness, depression, lack of motivation, trouble focusing, etc. Mental addiction is what most people have. It's just your brain telling you to go get some nicotine in your system for whatever reason it comes up with. For me, it usually has to do something with, "You had a hard day. I think you deserve a break." With a vape. Or, "Oh boy, we got a long day ahead of us. I think some nicotine would really help us through it, don't you think?" And you wanna know the worst part? It actually scientifically does make working and concentrating easier. Yeah, here I am talking so much shit about vaping, yet nicotine itself is not actually bad. It's how we get it in our system that's harmful for us. There's been a bunch of studies showing that nicotine helps with accuracy, maintaining attention, fine motor skills, and short-term memory, but only when you have it in your system. Basically meaning nicotine is a lot like caffeine, the only difference being you can drink a cup of coffee made with natural beans and reap the benefits for a while. But with nicotine, you either have to inhale Chinese sweatshop chemicals, stuff nickel pouches under your gums, or smoke a cig, which is like insta-cancer. Well, all of them give cancer, but cigs are the most lethal. That being said, nicotine is still a highly addictive substance, and when you start incorporating it into your daily routine, it's gonna become a necessity very quickly. And although caffeine is similar in nature, getting addicted to it isn't as fast of a process. Also, unlike nicotine, which for 99.99% of people is an unhealthy habit, drinking 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day is linked to a lower likelihood of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, liver and endometrial cancers, Parkinson's disease, and depression. So if you're consuming it in moderation, it can actually be beneficial. Anyway, we've determined that nicotine is a sly fox, understood the differences between physical and mental addiction, but also learned that nicotine itself isn't actually bad. Rather, it's the way we consume it and its addictive nature that's not very good. That being said, if you're getting buzzed from a device you yourself bought, then I think it's safe to say you're addicted to some regard. But now a new question arises. How addicted are you? And I think to answer that, we're gonna have to bust out the greatest video format ever created in the history of man.
The 3 levels of nicotine addiction.
Level 1. Social vapor. As we discussed earlier, at this point, you kinda just vape on night outs or when you hang out with your friends, but that doesn't mean you're not addicted, it means you're only slightly so, and just equate socializing with vaping. Which, if you're able to keep it this way, you'll be fine, and if you ever decide that, nah, I don't wanna quit hanging out with friends with vaping, you can quit relatively easy. Difficulty, 3 out of 10.
Yo, what's up?
Give me a fucking puff! Level 2. Dispo Fiend. You couldn't resist the buzz and went ahead and started getting your own dispos. Now you're way more fucked than before because nicotine is in your daily schedule, so your body is starting to get used to it always being available when needed. Depending on how long you keep daily puffing will determine how hard it is for you to quit, but on average, if you've been hitting it for a couple weeks, I'd say difficulty level 6.5 out of 10. Pretty hard. But an easy strategy to try is if you're not a coffee drinker, start being one. Basically, if you're struggling to go completely cold turkey, instead of a morning rip, try a morning brew. I know substituting one addiction for another doesn't sound that good, but as I said earlier, having 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day is actually healthy. That's also why this method only works if you're not already a caffeine fiend, because if you are, this won't really do much. Level 3.
Why are you talking to me? Help me find my vape! Or I'm gonna fucking die!
Oh, you're a fiend, a pirate, a capitalist for that nick. You've completely handed over your life to the substance, meaning you don't even try to fight it anymore. Your brain says, get some nick, and you grab one of your 13 dispos or your prized possession box mod and rip until you feel kinda shitty. Difficulty quitting, 9 out of 10, only cause I've met a person who literally uses nicotine pouches like it's a fucking oxygen tank and he's 1,000 feet underwater. Meaning, mans wakes up, puts one under, and then throughout his entire day, instead of alternating between having one between his gums and not having one, the instant he takes it out, he puts a new one in. This dude once tried to quit cold turkey, and I shit you not, 4 hours later, he was experiencing headaches, dizziness, vomiting. That's just sad, man, for real. So to answer the question of if you're addicted to nicotine is, well, if you're already asking that, then you probably are. But hopefully, you were able to identify where you stand currently, and use this video to realize that you're slightly addicted and better to quit now than have it be way harder in the future, or that you've already moved up the ladder and need to take action now before you get to the point of the nicotine pouch guy I told you about.
I think everyone here has thought about going to an amusement park high, because it just seems like the perfect mix of thrills and exploration. But what was holding me back from going for a long time was that I was scared of there being some sweaty employee who would call the SWAT team on me or something for having too much fun. Thankfully, I went on a trip to the Netherlands with my brother this summer, and you know your boy wouldn't let the golden opportunity of getting suited at an amusement park without any paranoia fly by, so we went, and man, it did not disappoint. It all started with us buying a pack of monkey balls, which were the strongest edibles they sold at the shop. I don't remember exactly the THC levels or whatnot, but the guy at the register said to eat one if we wanted to get totally bedoozled. Now, we drive in 30 minutes away from the theme park and decide to down one each so we can be baked by the time we're there. 30 minutes goes by, we at the parking lot, and this shit ain't kicking at all. The problem was, we wasn't sure if we allowed to bring him in, so now we got a dilemma. Either we eat one more and risk going insane, or we don't and we risk not getting high enough, and therefore being bummed out the entire time. And well, we ain't no pussies.
So we decided, whatever, let's eat the damn second monkey ball. How crazy can it be if it ain't even kicking after 30 minutes? Now we in the park, it's about 50 minutes since the first monkey ball and it's starting to kick. First ride we went on was the main attraction. It was the biggest in the park and had like a super steep fall, but a damn 40-minute line. And bro, in the time of waiting, I could feel myself slowly but surely crawling deeper into the depths of insanity. We get to the front of the line and we somehow autopilot our way to the roller coaster. At this stage, with my soinked mind, I'm thinking my death is a certainty. Cause I'm 6'6" and there was no one there that tall. So I just assumed that the damn railing was gonna be too low for my head at some point and I was gonna get decapitated like a fool. But bro, once the ride started, all those paranoid thoughts disappeared and they were replaced with pure joy mixed with an adrenaline rush.
Hey man, this is it. We're gonna die. This is a damn children's theme park. They haven't taken into account giant baked tourists like us.
Hey bruh, I think that might have been the coolest thing I've ever done. After that, I wasn't paranoid no more, and the adrenaline kinda pumped me up. Now we looking at the map trying to figure out where we going next. Problem was, this place was massive, and cause we were baked out of our minds, we ain't understand a damn thing.
Hey man, I think we here, right? So we gotta go this direction and we'll make it to this water, I think. Yeah bro, I think so, yeah. Bro, where the hell are we?
Thankfully, the second monkey ball ain't hitting yet, but man, we were barely functioning already. So we walking around knowing that at some point we were gonna go into undiscovered territories of high, in a foreign country with no one to call and no way home. After an hour of stumbling around, we found the water, I think. But yet again, the wait time was 40 minutes. But ain't no way we backing down now, so we put on our big boy pants and faced the challenge head on. And what a challenge it was. The second monkey ball, well, it was hitting, and it was hitting hard. What made the waiting 20 times worse was that we were standing in line next to this group of teenagers that were acting real weird, looking at us, then whispering to each other, then giggling, that type of stuff. Worst part was, there was no way out of that situation. We couldn't just go a little bit back cause we sticked out like a sore thumb. Two 6'5" guys with eyes looking like we had just unlocked our Sharingans, talking in our weird gibberish language. They was probably thinking we gonna put him under a genjutsu or something. Thankfully, we somehow survived that hell. Honestly, I think that was the only bad trip I've ever had, cause those damn teenagers kept staring at us and made me feel real paranoid. Unfortunately, the ride was rather forgettable, so I don't remember much about it. But now, I'm gonna talk about the craziest part of the whole experience. Getting stranded in Mushroom Land. If you know anything about amusement parks, you know that they are pretty damn big, and it's quite frustrating to navigate them, especially if you're high AF. Well, in the location we were at, there was a place called Mushroom Land. At least that's what I remember it as. It had 0 rides, just sights and museum type things, so we wanted to avoid it, but somehow we kept on ending up there. The first instance of this was after getting off the second ride. We started walking, not really knowing where we were going, and we stumbled into the land of mushrooms. It was pretty cool at first, I guess, cause it had like these little huts and castles to explore. But bro, it was goddamn endless. You guys know that scene in the Percy Jackson movie where they go to that casino with the intention of staying for a couple minutes but end up being there for like a week? That was pretty much what happened to us. We couldn't get out. Whatever we tried, it felt like we were running in circles. The same shitty statues and weird expeditions came up again and again until 2 hours went by and well over 10,000 steps. In the end, by pure luck, we somehow stumbled on a random ride with a 15-minute wait time, which ended up being one of the best, cause it was like space-themed, trippy, and mixed real well with being high. Anyway, we got off that ride and there's about 1 hour left until the park closes. And honestly, I'm a little pissed off cause we literally only been on 3 rides in the span of 4 hours. So we running around looking at the map scattered around the park, trying to get on one more ride. But it's really damn hard cause at this point we are zoinked beyond comprehension and I can't focus on nothing. Especially on some complicated map. Again, by sheer luck, we ended up finding a ride with a 20-minute wait time, but the park was also closing in 20, so there was a good chance we were gonna wait in line and end up not even getting on the ride. And well, the level of bedoozled we stood there for 10 minutes trying to decide to wait or not.
Bro, you wanna go? We could go, I guess. Should we though? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
We waited in line and it ended up working out because we got on the ride and out the park on time. The only problem was that we had driven there with a rental car and we were still baked.
How baked, you might ask? Well, let's just say we couldn't find our car for an hour, even though the parking lot was pretty much empty, but we just kept on getting distracted by random things. Hey bro, I feel like these bushes are like really well built. Bro, we gotta find the... okay, you know, there really is something about these bushes that's just really nice. Anyway, once we found the car, we kind of understood that there's no way we're driving back. So we ended up sleeping in the car, and not gonna lie, I slept like a damn baby in that brand spanking new Peugeot. Have you ever gotten like really high and thought, man, I got a lot of energy right now. I don't feel like just sitting around and munching all day at all. Yeah, most likely not. But if you've leveled up enough and are determined to go on an adventure, here are my 5 best places to go well baked. Number 5. The park. This one's a go-to hangout spot for most cannabis enthusiasts because, well, it's the park. There's all kinds of nature there, plus the overall vibe is nice and chill, especially if it's a sunny day. This place is at its best when you're with your friends, cause someone always comes up with the randomest idea that ends up being fun as fuck. Hey guys, you see that tree there? Yeah, what about it? I think we should all climb it, right? And smoke on the tree. Bro, you're a goddamn genius. Man, this is nice, isn't it? You can also go at night, which makes it a whole different type of cool. Get swanked, put on some scary music, and just walk around. I've had instances where I'm dead certain I see a goddamn demon next to a tree, lurking, waiting for the perfect time to possess me. But you know your boy a level 5000 holy warrior, so I ain't worried about no Annabella pulling up on me, cause I keep that Excalibur real close.
Fatality.
Number 4. The zoo. You ever look at some lions right in the eye, daring them to come get you, cause you can take them easy? Well, it's pretty fun cause the devil's lettuce makes every thought so significant and you really do start believing stuff like, hey, bro, I'm telling you, the lion pulls up, boom, jump out the way, bang, liver punch, front flip on it, neck snap, easy. You're way too high, man. There's obviously so much more to do than pretending you can take on lions, like looking at elephants, looking at turtles, looking at crocodiles. Okay, so the activities pretty much boil up to just looking at animals. But shit, it's pretty fun. Don't hate on the zoo, you fool. Number 3. A water park. This one has a special place in my heart because I have always loved water parks ever since I was a kid. They're all the fun of an amusement park, but way shorter lines and you actually know where you are. Unlike a theme park which takes a freaking PhD in geography to navigate. Anyway, the one problem with this place is you gotta get your high just right. You smoke too much, and you'll get overwhelmed and tired. You smoke too little, well, then you'll probably be thinking that you should have smoked more all day. But when you get that right, it's fun to the max. Cause man, I'll be feeling like a kid again. Oh boy, can't wait to go down the red slide. Bro, that's the kid slide.
I told you, Daniel, I want to go down the red slide, understand?
Number 2, the cinema. Kind of an obvious one. But then again, I know a lot of people who say they're too scared to go high, cause they think they'll get paranoid or something. I was like that a little bit too at first, but now I be getting baked beyond comprehension and start doing the most. Sneaking in food and drinks, putting my feet up on the seat in front of me, munching like a maniac, stuff like that. One thing though I do recommend is go to a low-key movie, meaning a movie that isn't blockbuster or has been in the cinema for a while. Cause most of the times they're close to 0 people in those ones, meaning you pretty much have a private cinema. So no one will be mad if you start chatting with your homies or munching like a madman that hasn't eaten in 3 weeks. Hey, what movie we watching again? Number 1. You or your friend's place. I'ma set the scene. You have a free day and you're bored. You watched everything good in the cinema, been to your local water park 1,000 times, and unfortunately, it's a cold and rainy day, so you don't want to go to the park or the zoo. Here you are thinking, man, I'ma really spend my free day doing nothing. When you feel your phone vibrate and you check and see it's your homie, Michael. You answer the call and he's like, hey yo, my parents went away for the night. I got the whole house to myself. I was thinking, you, me and Daniel have a limit breaking smoke sesh and see where the day takes us. There's just something about smoking up with your homies in a crib by yourself, knowing you have the whole day to just find entertainment in the stupidest things. Okay. Okay, I'm feeling it. Yeah. Hey. Fly like a dragon, sting like a bee. Mess with me, homie, you messing with the team. Got lots of guns, got lots of money. Spend it all on a pack of honey. Ay. Bam. Bro, that shit was straight fire.
Blazing with people is a lot different than blazing alone. Because whereas being alone, you can just let your mind drift to wherever, if you're with others, you have to, well, at least you should, understand the general vibe and direction of the convos and interactions. Unfortunately, however much you might try to be unbiased, you will discover that there are certain people you will want to smoke with again and will always be invited to the sesh. But then there are also dudes who, after you get faded with once, will leave you contemplating if you ever want to consume that za in a social setting again. Or at least with new people, cause you never know if the new guy will be the dude who gets way too intense about everything. Nobody likes this dude, and for a reason. When mofos is faded, they just wanna chill and be happy, but this gremlin finds it necessary to express his deepest resentment or strongest belief in his personal opinions. The group could be talking about some chill like the fragrance of the ocean or the beauty of the sun, and this dude will start spitting out shit like, man, what a day to get lit. No clouds, sunlight on the skin, it's warm, just great. Yeah, man, you're right. What a time to be alive.
You do know about global warming, right? The day we are having is just a byproduct of the disaster that is about to overtake our planet.
Yeah, I know, but shit, I ain't worrying about all that right now. I'm just enjoying the moment, you know?
Well, you should be. Do you know that people like you are the reason why this is all happening? People who don't care and just do whatever they please.
Hey man, chill. I recycle. Plus, I don't even be driving that much, man. I just be walking around.
Whatever. You do you. Just know you're a part of the problem, not the solution. Like I am. I'm like a part of the solution. I'm really cool.
Like, screw you, man. Learn to read the room, Mr. I think like this and therefore you must too. But switching things up, the next guy on the list is someone you definitely want in the sesh. The dude who knows a bunch of random but interesting stuff. Bro, I always enjoy it when a dude like this is in the sesh. Instead of pushing some agenda like the previous guy, he always just adds to the convo in a meaningful and interesting way. Like mofos could be talking about some History Channel shit, and this dude would be knowing all the facts and details. He pretty much like the sesh version of Google, but instead of giving you long paragraphs, he hits you with stuff like, guys, even though it's called World War II, it was only fought in Europe. So why it ain't called Europe War II? What? Nah, but real, I could make a whole video on the stuff I've heard from dudes like this. But the next guy is more of a hit or miss. The dude who rarely smokes. Now, this man either folds under the pressure of the za and just sits quietly observing everybody like an owl, or instead he becomes one with the za and becomes a conduit of it, allowing words to flow from the holy plant itself. Plus, I swear, laughter is contagious, and if a dude like this is feeling comfortable, he always 100% of the time finds everything hilarious, and that good vibe rubs off on everybody, boosting everyone's giggles by a good 25%. But as I said, he kind of a hit or miss, so if he doesn't allow the za to flow through his veins, he'll just sit there quietly giggling by himself like Gollum or something. Yet, you shouldn't hold it against him, cause I think we've all been there, overwhelmed by the power of the green magic. But this next guy is the exact opposite and the universally hated dude at the sesh. The fool who hogs the No one likes a greedy hogger, especially if he himself did not bring any to the sesh and is just riding on the other's hard-earned zaza. The excuse this dog always has is,
my tolerance is much higher than all yours, so in reality, we're all getting the same amount.
And I mean, yeah, technically, but still, that's on you. If you haven't been managing your tolerance and been abusing the za to the point you need to smoke the whole spliff of premium backwood to feel something, then you better bring extra stuff to the sesh. And if you can't afford it, well, start a GoFundMe or something, you goddamn parasite. Shit's pissing me off just thinking about it. But this next guy definitely won't piss you off. In fact, when this dude is rumored to be at the sesh, it's always a must-go. I'm talking, of course, about the plug. Now, you might be wondering, why is this guy so great? Why is it a must go when he is at the sesh? Well, the answer to that is he is the plug, and therefore has a shitload of Zaza, and the best part being it's usually all free. Bro, I've smoked with the plug many times, and they always bust out that exotic stuff for everybody to enjoy. And honestly, that's just a part of it, because this guy knows a lot about the magic green plant, and I swear, the best thing to talk about when high is Zaza, how it's grown, the differences in strains, the differences in effects. It all becomes 200% more interesting when you blazed. And on top of all that, you know for 100% sure that this dude will never freak out nor ruin the group's vibe because he got too high. Shit, my man might freak out for not being high enough.
We've all had a bad high before, and for some of us, we've had many. But what if I told you, you don't even know what that means? At least before you hear about the day I almost died while bugging off the Zaza. I woke up happier than usual because it was a special day. To be exact, it was my special day. My birthday. And I had planned a great celebration in my name. I was going to get wasted in my hometown with my old school friends. Because, well, I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I mean, I was turning 18, so you know your boy had to throw a killer party. Okay, to be honest, the party was pretty lame, cause my friends were either soy boys in a relationship or just plain gay, cause I told them multiple times, bring some hoes. The problem was, I had lost all my female connections in the area over the 2 years I was away, and they knew this. So how you gonna pull up to the party knowing your boy is back from the gulag and it's his birthday talking about,
Bro, where the hoes at? This party lame as hell.
I told you bring the hose, any hose, yet you come here with a 6-pack and a vape. What you talking about where the hose at? Look in the mirror, fool. You the hoe. You the hoe. Anyway, so we're just chilling at my lame party when my boy Ricky hits me up like, hey bro, I saw you in town again. Wanna smoke some gas? And even though I do have an obligation to stay at my own birthday function, I decided to disband. Hey, everybody, thank you all for coming, but I'm gonna have to wrap this party up cause it's getting kinda late.
Bro, it's 11 p.m. Party's just starting. Let's drink some more beers, eh?
Yeah, it's only 11 p.m. Let's drink some more beers. Get the fuck out of my house, Charles. So I get these soy boys out my house. Like, sorry, but if you can't even muster one single female on a 2-week notice to come to a house party, are you really even a man? But yeah, so here I am, half drunk, walking to the European version of 7-Eleven when I get a text from my boy Ricky.
Hey man, you wanna come roll with us on this drop-off? We can blaze up in the car on the way there.
And I don't really want to get involved with any dealings of illegal substances, but like, I was pretty much at the 7-Eleven already and really wanted to get lit. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I get to the parking lot and I see the most rusty ricer stolen from the junkyard looking car, blasting gangster rap from the speakers like it was a 50 Cent concert. I jump in the car and see my boy Ricky, but also 2 of my friends from elementary school. They discussing this business whilst me and Ricky blazing in the back, when I noticed the driver seems kind of off. So I asked Ricky, hey bro, is that man good? Seems a little off.
Yeah, no, he good. Just had a couple beers.
Bruh. So I just found out that the driver is a teensy bit drunk. But I'm already here and we're blazing, so what am I gonna do, leave? It was about 10 minutes of chatting and smoking when the time came to roll out. And bro, when I say this car was the biggest piece of shit that has ever grazed public roads, I'm not exaggerating. The freaking bottom of the car was vibrating and shaking so much, it felt like we was having an earthquake. And on top of it, the engine was making these clunking noises, and the exhaust was spitting fumes like it was 1920. Even though I was high as a kite, it wasn't just the Zaza making me paranoid, because this guy was driving like he was on a NASCAR track. But the one thing he did constantly that got me praying to our Lord and Savior was taking every corner and curb on the opposite side of traffic. And even though we lived in a small town and it was midnight, if even just one car would have been on those dark and twisty roads that day, it would have meant certain death for all of us. You know those moments where you're like, oh Lord, please, I will never hang out with these thugs again and I will never smoke the good. Just save me from this death. That was me, but like times 10 at least.
Anyway, what felt like an eternity of driving, we got to the drop-off, and it was just some more wannabe fuck gangsters interacting with our group of wannabe fuck gangsters. That interaction took about 10 minutes until we started driving back, and I was just praying the whole way to whoever would listen. Gandhi, Buddha, Michael Jackson, Pop Smoke, Jiraiya, anybody and everybody. Somehow we got back in one piece. Can't say the same words about the car though, cause when we pulled up to the 7-Eleven again and he turned it off, it made a weird noise. So he tried activating the shit box again and it wouldn't. So yeah, sucks for him I guess. So I say my goodbyes to the top fuck gangsters of my hometown, and all I can think about is, bro, what the hell happened to my old homies? Everybody's either a soy boy or a drug dealer, no in between. Guess the moral of the story is, chase your dreams, I guess. Oh, and don't go into cars that look like they were last maintenanced in 1955, cause there's a good chance that this'll happen. I don't know about you guys, but I swear, these days whenever I go outside to catch some fresh air and enjoy the glory of the sun, I'm instantly greeted with mofos triple tapping the Elfington like it was a raid boss. Young, old, fat, ripped, it don't matter. Everybody consuming the Nick some way or the other. Shit, not even our goddamn elementary schools are safe. 12-year-old kids be waking up one day and just being like, you know what? Today seems like the perfect day to get an awful addiction that I will regret for the rest of my life and struggle to control daily. Yeah, better hit up Jimmy too. Maybe he wants to join in. But not all nicotine addicts are the same. In fact, there are a lot of different perspectives on the whole addiction aspect. But one of the worst types to be is the dude who never admits he is addicted. We all know a dude like this. Mofo be sucking on the Benjamin 24/7 or stuffing pouches under his gums every 5 minutes. But when asked if he is addicted, he always hits you with the, "Nah bro, just the fur. I can quit whenever. I just don't wanna right now." Like, what you mean you don't wanna? Bro been consuming so much Nick, his brain has literally turned into a damn elf bar. And when you tell him to prove it by, I don't know, not vaping for a week, they always hit you with that, "Man, I ain't gotta prove nothing to you. You don't know me, what I've been through. I'm a dog, I'm a killer." Now, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. Even though this dude kinda stubborn, I feel for him. Cause who really wants to admit they can't stop? But this next dude, I don't feel bad for at all. The guy who seems to think it's cool to be addicted. Okay, no one thinks it's nice to be addicted, but I mean, that's what this guy pretty much is. They think vaping makes them cool, and therefore shames others for not wanting to. In reality, pretty much every other nicotine consumer will tell you to never start doing it, and that it's much cooler to just breathe air. So, therefore, this guy is, or at least should be, hated by everyone on planet Earth. And if you ever catch a mofo pushing vaping to a homie, just run up on him and slap the shit out of him. Kick him in the balls while you're at it. Or, I don't know, at least spit in his face or something. Fucking asshole. But enough of this hobgoblin, let's move on to the dude who smokes cigs. Okay, this might offend some people, but cigs are goddamn disgusting, and I'm pretty sure they're even worse for you than vaping and nicotine pouches, although don't quote me on that. This guy lives and dies by, "It's all natural, bro," and proclaims, "At least I know what's in it." Like, sorry for hanging on to hope that just maybe, I might not get cancer, cause this dude already marked his calendar for the good old iron lung. Not much to say except for, man kinda smells, so 1 out of 10, never touch nicotine, let alone cigs. But now it's time for the occasional addict. Okay, this one is near to my heart, cause sad to admit it, this is kinda me. This dude doesn't have his own vape or pouches or cigs or anything, but that doesn't mean he isn't addicted because he still consumes Nick whenever he's offered or the opportunity arises. Speaking from experience, this guy kind of in limbo cause even though there could be weeks, even months when he doesn't touch the Elfington, but then one day he might go somewhere with the homies and do something like this. You wanna hit this? No. Okay.
on second thought...
So yeah, even though it's a seasonal addiction, it's still an addiction. So call yourself out every time a nicotine addiction moment happens. But time for the last one. I only consume Nick when I'm stressed. So, you only hit the Puffington when you're stressed, eh? So, what qualifies as being stressed? You lose your job, you get robbed, you lose your car keys, you stub your toe, you experience a mild inconvenience of forgetting the lights on in your room, so now you have to go all the way upstairs to turn them off. So yeah, as you can see, this one is kind of a slippery slope, cause believe me, the more you mess around with the Nick, the more you're gonna be in moments like this.
What? That's so... Man...
Unfortunately, it's all a ruse, cause in reality, you only consume Nick when you feel like it. So you're addicted, just like everybody else. And a word of advice, don't start vaping, okay? It's not good for you. I think a lot of you guys can relate when I say I f***ing hate nicotine. No, I mean I love it, but I actually really hate it. And if you watch my Types of Nicotine Addicts video, you know that I consider myself a seasonal addict. So pretty much I might be Nick free for a whole 3 months or something, but then fall back into the trap like, life is so stressful right now, I swear. I got so many problems and worries. I wish I could just somehow relieve some of this stress. Preferably in blueberry flavor. And then I have to start fighting my own damn brain, cause it just starts telling me reasons why I deserve that blueberry stick. You haven't vaped for months. Just buy one, come on. You had a rough day. You deserve it. You have a long day ahead of you. It would be much easier with a little bit of cancerous chemicals.
Like, no. F you, brain. I shall not fall under your illusions again.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But fool me.
Well, shit.
And I don't even know why. Like, whenever I have something I need to do that I don't really feel like doing at the time, my brain automatically gives me the signal to go buy some Nick. Like, why? It doesn't actually make the task easier. Shit, all it actually does is make it harder, cause you get all lightheaded and dizzy. Every time I get a week or more off the stuff, I feel great and am as productive as ever, but for some reason, my mind still believes if I just had some nicotine, I would be even more productive. It's kinda the same with grass though, cause I always feel like I'm getting shit done when I'm high, but in reality, I'm working at like 30% capacity, but it just feels like I'm working at 200, cause the ZA makes everything feel so significant, even just doing a small amount of work feels like you just finished studying for them Harvard entrance exams, fool. Anyway, back to nicotine and how I got accidentally addicted to it again. So basically what had happened was I was just doing what I normally do, you know, making videos and shit, when suddenly I was invited to a barbecue. And you know, me being the CBD bro I am, I ain't really wanna go cause I had shit to do. Plus, you know, everybody was drinking there and I was just trying to smoke that grass. But reluctantly, I accepted, and not to my surprise, everybody there was consuming that Nick one way or the other. And well, long story short, I cracked and took a nicotine pouch from one of the people there. Well, by the end I took like 7 or 8, but that doesn't matter. And my dumbass thought, well okay, just one day. But then the next day I went out with some friends and by the gods, 2 of them were also carrying nicotine pouches, so obviously I did some more. And then the same thing happened the day after that, and by the end of it all, I just went ahead and bought a fucking Elf bar. Cause I guess all it takes to go from months clean to Elf bar in your pocket sucking on a colorful stick when stressed unable to control your urges hobgoblin is 2 days of stuffing your gums with nicotine pouches. Thankfully, I didn't let myself go too far, cause after that Elf bar, I didn't buy any more, but instead placed myself in specific social situations where I was able to receive free nicotine pouches from others. And that's what I'm on at the time of this video as well. So basically, I don't have my own vape or whatnot, but every time I go somewhere where someone does, you better believe I'm asking for a quick hit. But don't worry, I try not to be too much of a goblin, so usually I cash app like $2 to the dude I'm borrowing the vape from. It's kinda hard though trying to explain to people like, yeah, I don't vape. Only when someone else has a vape, then I vape quite a bit. But hey, that's what's helped me quit nicotine like 5 times by now, although I always end up coming back to it after a couple months. Nonetheless, it helps because in order to get my nicotine kick, I have to go out and socialize, which can be quite hard if you also want to be faded and watch Star Wars Theory at home. So a lot of times, I just don't go and therefore don't vape. It's only when my nicotine addiction outweighs my desire to be high at home when I go out and vape. And because I'd rather watch Disney Plus and munch on some Doritos than just sit somewhere and suck on a nicotine stick, I've been able to control my nicotine addiction quite well.
Smoking ganja, inhaling nature's secret mist, partaking in the forbidden lettuce. Call it what you want, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is how you act when you do it. And not just how you act in the moment, but your mindset toward the Za in general. Because after about 3 years of being a self-appointed Zaza scientist, I've started to notice something. Your relationship with the Lord's Loud is often just a reflection of your overall personality. Are you a binge toker, a controlled, consistent explorer, or are you the guy who only really enjoys being faded when everyone else around him is also faded? There's a lot to unpack here, so let's just start this off properly with the unwinder. The unwinder is a type of lettuce enjoyer who uses the grass to, well, unwind. And I don't just mean he tokes up at night after work. His entire mindset toward the lettuce is basically flipping a switch in your brain that activates chill mode. Whether he's alone or with friends, he's almost always down for whatever, as long as it doesn't involve interrupting his chill. So if you're faded in a group with this guy and someone goes, "Hey, you know what will be crazy? If we all went skinny dipping right now in that ice cold pond outside," you can know with 100% certainty that he does not want to go. Internally, he is in agony because everyone just agreed to an activity that is completely incompatible with a chill night. But since he is chill to the max, instead of complaining like a little bitch, he goes along with it. He does the stupid skinny dipping, he participates, he nods along, but he looks visibly dead inside because while everyone else is out there having fun, all he's thinking is, "I can't wait for this to be over so I can get high and watch alpha male influencers," ironically, for comedy. Which brings us to the bane of the unwinder's existence, the recovering alcoholic. And obviously, I don't mean this literally. I mean the type of dude who doesn't view the grass much differently than he views poison in a bottle. To him, getting faded means entering an altered state of mind where the goal is activity, banter, movement, ideas, doing things. And I hate this guy. Well, not really. Because if you've ever been in a sesh made of only unwinders, you know the problem. The aura of chill becomes overwhelming. Everyone is so content with whatever that nothing actually happens. No show or movie gets chosen, no midnight McDonald's run is agreed upon, no potential link up with some baddies is even explored because all of those things would interrupt the chill night. But here's the reality. Even the chillest of tokers enjoys a bit of flair, a bit of spice, something that adds variety and gives you a new appreciation for chilling afterward, which even the chillest of unwinders need a little adventure now and then, if only to have something to talk about afterwards. So while the unwinder and this guy are complete opposites, they actually need each other to survive. One prevents chaos, the other prevents stagnation. Together, balance. But beyond the yin and yang of Za smokers, there are a lot of more specific archetypes, and one I've been noticing a lot lately is the one who starts moving irregular. You'd think this one would be super common, but it actually isn't. For most people, the Za just amplifies who they already are. Sure, they'll have more wild takes, more philosophical comments, maybe some outlandish remarks, but it's still them. When the Zaza gets someone moving irregular though, you can tell instantly. I'm talking about the dude who changes, he warps, he becomes a version of himself you never see. Maybe it's a side that's always there internally but only comes out when he's high. Who knows? A lot of these people start talking. And I mean talking. They laugh at everything, every thought gets externalized, and depending on the situation, they become a lot to manage. As a proud unwinder, it's always wild to watch someone smoke up and then act like they just did a line in the bathroom. It feels like they're saying everything that pops into their head, sometimes in a way that makes holding a conversation borderline impossible. And holding a convo while high is already hard enough without someone interrupting every 5 seconds. That said, I try not to be a D about it, because
because it reminds me of the days when I'd smoke a bowl and feel like I just entered a completely different universe. And also because usually these dudes don't smoke that often, and telling someone to talk less while they're high is one of the fastest ways to absolutely murder their vibe. When you're high, you just want to say what's on your mind, and I respect that. I just wish there was a slight verbal filter involved, for the sake of being able to talk about one subject for longer than 10 seconds. Which, quite ironically, this guy also has an exact opposite. The sunken place. I low-key used to be like this, and the reason was pretty simple. I wasn't fully comfortable sharing my high thoughts, or honestly my thoughts in general. I've always processed life a bit differently. But enough self-glazing. The sunken place isn't really a type of za smoker per se, but it can be, especially if you find yourself entering it often well off the zaza. It's a state of deep thinking, analyzing, criticizing, planning, but instead of doing it normally or sharing some of those thoughts if you're in a group, you completely disappear into your own head. From the outside, it just looks like you're quiet, maybe a little sad, because let's be real, nobody thinks deeply with a smile on their face. If you've ever toked up with someone like this, you've probably felt inclined to ask, "Bro, you good?" Or, "What you thinking about?" But I'm sorry to tell you, despite your good intentions, all you're really doing is interrupting his 7-layer plan to escape the Matrix, or his full psychological analysis of everyone in the room. What makes it funny is when he finally snaps back to reality, because you could be talking about some random shit for like 20 minutes, he's been quiet as a mouse the entire time, and then suddenly he just goes, "Yeah, bruh, that's why I stay looks-maxing." Man jumps into conversation like he hasn't just spent the last 20 minutes completely alone in his own head, straight scheming. But now, for one, I would just straight up not invite to the sesh. The ultra serious one. Some people can't be saved. You think an uptight, overly serious person would inhale the relaxing magic and finally unwind a bit. And to be fair, most of the time that does happen. But then there are the ones who simply cannot be helped. The ones who have never been prescribed the chill pill in their entire life. These are the dudes who don't realize the irony of how helpless and useless having a strong opinion actually is. People who, for some reason, still haven't realized that they are not even a tiny gear in the rotation of the world. They're just a microscopic fraction of the oil needed to keep the machine running. And yeah, sure, Obama and shit had strong opinions too, and he became president. Whether you like him or not, at least he tried to do something instead of just complaining. But this guy, his aspirations stop at making manager at Best Buy. Meanwhile, his opinions, especially while high, are so intense that you're genuinely nervous to pull up AI Trump memes while he's in the room. And don't even think about sharing a chill thought like, "Maybe we should all just get along." He'll instantly counter with some facts he got from TikTok about how the world government is actually ran by AI reptiles planning a full-scale takeover. The system is corrupt, America is doomed, and if you think otherwise, don't worry. He remembers another obscure article about something Trump allegedly said in 2019 about invading mainland Mongolia with nuclear-powered drones built by a secret McDonald's military division. And I mean, shit, who knows, maybe he's right. But what he doesn't realize is that he's not the only person in the room who watches YouTube and talks to ChatGPT. He is, however, the only person in the room who hasn't realized that none of it actually matters. And even if it did, what the hell would you even do about it?